Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey,
Oh,
folks.
wait, we just
Hi.
noticed that Larry Gregory is in our chat room here.
Woohoo!
Dead! Yeah. He said he's not dead. Yes, he is. I'm not. He isn't? Well, he will be soon. He's very ill. I'm getting better. No, you're not. You'll be so dead in a moment.
Oh, Larry, we're so glad
I
you're
hope
not
you enjoy
dead.
that.
Yeah.
You're not dead yet. Well done, Larry.
Not dead yet. Good to see you, man. Talons, Douglas.
Exactly. So Steffi is going to try and be with us at some point. She's had one of those days at the office, but she's heading home at some point. So
Yeah, I read about you losing your medical certificate. Well, join the club, Larry. I couldn't get one now, even if I tried.
Well, I don't know if I could or not, but I really don't want one at this point.
yeah.
That's a good excuse.
He wants to get rejected.
Just think of the money you save.
I mean, what I mean to say is, I really wish I could get one so I could go fly.
You remember that feeling you used to have when you went in and hoped everything went well? Now it's the opposite. If you went in, you'd be hoping they said, no, you can't fly.
Are you sure that I'm okay?
Yeah. Don't you want to look?
Take another look.
Anyway, I sent you two guys a picture of somebody that we were just talking about on your messages, just so you know.
Oh, you're talking to us?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
Oh my. Well, the thing that popped up in mine was your nephew, and I don't think that's.
No,
you
that's not it. Just a minute.
Okay.
I'll get it to you. Hold on.
Get it right.
She looks
Liz,
good.
Get it right.
I'm so sorry. All this technology is just
too much.
Too much for me. I think you need someone younger.
If I had $1 every time I thought.
There you go.
Okay. Oh yeah, she does look good.
Doesn't she look great? We're talking about.
Yeah.
Guys, we're talking about Pamela Anderson, who apparently has decided now to sort of forego wearing all kinds of makeup. She looks great. She looks fabby.
She's kind of freckly, isn't she?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, I'm going. That must be a little bit retouched because she's barely got a wrinkle, particularly around the places everyone gets wrinkles, like around your eyes.
Yeah.
But I still think she looks good.
I really prefer, natural beauty to the, there's some ladies, both young and old, who just really put way too much makeup on, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And when they take, I guess she still has makeup on here, but very little. It's much more of a natural look. I just like that.
I'm just too lazy. Nice. I can't be bothered with makeup. And the odd time when I do put it on.
Liz isn't a good example. Liz is a good example of somebody who's just naturally beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the odd time when I do sort of think, I better put some makeup on. It ends up at the end of the day, I'm just going off to sleep and I went, I didn't take my makeup off. Like I'm so unused to wearing it. I forget that, I'm supposed to do that, aren't I?
Anyway, yeah, I do the same thing.
Tim Van Ram, as usual. Where do you come up with it, Tim? I do not know. Well, I'm ready when you are, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just going to have a quick run to the loo.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
And then Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
Very good.
Got some good stuff on today's show, as usual.
Oh, what's the iHall boxes? His stream didn't start. Sorry to hear that.
Oh, yeah. Are we talking about that again?
Well, I guess, yeah. I didn't think he was old enough to have that problem. But, okay. Oh, recorder on. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. You know what? I need to reconfigure this back to what it should be.
We didn't do a unity check, Jeff, too, when Nick gets back.
Here. Okay. Well, let's you and I do it now.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself in StreamYard.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You probably can't hear it because I'm not using the normal camera. Hang on. Let me do some reconfiguration.
Yes, you're correct, Tim. Jeff is in a Unity, I believe. Aren't you, Jeff? Isn't that a Unity? Yeah.
I am, yes.
A mutiny check, yes. Well, that's coming a little later, Larry.
Yeah, Unity is the base of the Sprinter-based motorhomes that Leisure Travel Van
What's the
makes,
other line, Jeff, that they have?
called Wonder.
Wonder.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Bread.
It's just a wonder, I guess.
You have to eat Wonder Bread when you're in it?
Yeah.
Poppy.
I'm ready.
Jeff,
Okay, let's do a
Nick, do you want to just
Unity.
quickly check Unity?
Sure.
Hello.
All
I'm
good,
back.
gentlemen. All good.
Okay, that's good.
And you got
Let
you
me,
guys.
okay, let's see if Radio Roger's level is okay.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Yeah,
Good.
that's pretty good.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
And Mr. Van Ram is saying that voice levels are good.
What?
I know.
That can't be
We're
right.
on a bit of a roll this year. People have not been complaining this year. Maybe they all got together and had a New Year's resolution there in the chat room.
Let's
and
don't
said,
be so hard on these people.
Yeah.
That's what they said. They got together and said,
we don't really want to hear them anyway. So
bless their hearts. You know, they're trying.
bless their little hearts.
Okay, let me hit that recorder
Okay,
as well. So I
hold
have two
on.
recorders going, and then we have
That's good.
recording going on here on StreamYard. And now let me go over here to the media assets.
That's always
Ooh,
good.
nice
yeah.
asset.
Mm.
And let me find the countdown, and let me go back over here to what was it called? Evernote,
Yeah.
and put that where it's supposed to be. Up
Put
here.
that where it's supposed to be. That's what she said.
Yep.
Take it out of there and put it where it's supposed to be.
That's not where it's supposed to be. My bad. Sorry. I really couldn't tell. Okay. Okay. I guess we're ready. We're going to do this thing, huh?
We're going to do it.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers. Oh, I need to get a beer. Oh, I don't hear anything.
No, I don't see the countdown going.
Oh, you know why? Because I went ahead and did the background instead of the video clip. It just leaves in the background, which you couldn't be able to see anyway because we have the other thing up there on the screen. So. Okay, now I'm going to push the right button.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 648.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from the APG Road Vessel Studio. Today's show is recorded on the week of January 20th, 2025.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Picture light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, Caribbean flights run low on fuel after diverting to avoid debris from an exploded SpaceX rocket. And final reports are out on 2 runway incidents. Also ahead, more news and your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 648 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger Stern. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff. Hello. Former U.S. Air Force pilot, retired Delta Airlines captain. And joining us from across the pond from his studio.
In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
Pretty slick, huh?
Really slick.
Past it professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hello, Jeff, and hello, all those lovely APG listeners. Now, I regularly hijack the show here about this time by contrasting our show number with something vaguely interesting. And in this case, I found two flight 648s. And the interesting thing is they were both hijacked. Now, the first was Flight 648, an Egypt Air 737 hijacked by Palestinian terrorists in 1985. Interestingly, there was a shootout on board the aircraft at altitude between the terrorists and an Egyptian security agent, and the aircraft was damaged, punctured multiple times. They had a decompression, and the aircraft eventually struggled on and landed on the island of Malta, despite the authorities denying them permission and in an attempt to keep them away, they turned off all the runway lights.
Oh my
The
gosh.
captain got it down.
Go away.
The captain got it down. But sadly, there was a standoff then between the authorities and the Palestinians, and they started murdering passengers, and many more died during the storming of the aircraft. Now, the second one wasn't quite as sad. An Aerolíneas Argentinas Flight 648. It was a DC-4 of all things, bound for Rio Gallegos in 1966, when 18 passengers took over the aircraft, 18 of them, armed, and how they got on, I don't know, and forced it to land on the Falkland Islands, in fact, on the race course in the middle of the town of Stanley. Their plan was to storm Government House. Actually, the governor wasn't even there at the time, but they were surrounded by British forces, which was a kind of combination of the few policemen, a few sort of territorial civilian army they had there, and the few Marines whose job it was to guard Government House. And there was a 2-day standoff, and eventually the Argentinian folk surrendered. They were tried in Tierra del Fuego, but only received very light sentences.
Wow.
Huh.
So three
So you're saying-
hijackings, Nick and two others.
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say that does not bode well for our episode 648. We're
No, it
obviously going to
doesn't.
be hijacked.
I hope
Probably by some
chat
doctor
room.
that'll pitch up in a while.
hope everyone in the chat room has checked their firearms at the gate there.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust any of them as far as I could throw them. All right. Well, thank you, Captain Nick. And also joining us from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier, aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer. It's the lovely Liz Piper.
Hello, everybody, and profound apologies to those of you in the US of A who have been experiencing incredibly cold temperatures. That was a gift from your northern neighbor, but we kept lots of those cold temperatures for ourselves, so it's been pretty chilly here too.
Self-flagellation, apparently.
Was your wind just cold or smelly as well?
No, it wasn't from the south, so it wasn't smelly.
Okay.
Oh, are you saying the South like I am? Okay. I see. All right. Well,
All right.
thanks,
Bye.
Liz. Bye.
Cheers.
God. All right. Well, I guess we should get on with some
What a
aviation
start.
news. I know.
Stand by for news.
All right, this from Reuters.com. On the 16th of January, or somewhere about that point in time this month, a SpaceX Starship rocket launched their Mission 7, I think, from Bolsa Chica, or is that right? Bolsa Chica? Sounds right. In Texas, and the rocket broke up in space minutes after launching on Thursday, forcing airline flights over the Gulf of Mexico to alter course to avoid the falling debris. So let's listen to some of the communications on liveatc.net.
Okay, yeah, for JetBlue 561, I'd like to request direct St. Martin, please.
JetBlue 561 is the same. JetBlue 561, St. Martin, that whole portion is right now, you guys basically are either, you want to go to San Juan, and it's going to be at your own risk, same for St. Thomas, same for St. Martin, same for Beef Island, it's going to be the same because there's a corridor between that.
Space vehicle mishap, a debris response area has been activated. Beginning south of Georgetown, Great, Exuma, extending to the southeast, impacting Providenciales, Grand Turk areas, extending further beyond and ending at the San Juan and Piarco FIA boundary, just north of St. Martin. Stand by for individual instructions. JetBlue 561, you said San Juan and St. Martin were the same, right?
St. Martin, San Juan, St. Martin, and even going to Santo Domingo airspace is going to be the same.
Yeah, we run out of time, so 561, direct San Juan at this time.
They speak different languages, though. They're not the same.
Thank you.
Able to accept it, did you want to divert there?
Affirmative, Jetshare 943, we would like to divert there.
Jetshare 943, roger, clear to the San Juan Airport via present position direct. Josh Juliet, Oscar Sierra, Hotel Echo. Josh, even direct San Juan, stand by lower.
All right, so there's a little snippet of quite a long audio or video of all this audio going on with people trying to figure out what they're going to do with their flight. They weren't expecting this. One more thing to worry about out there these days, right? SpaceX Mission Control lost contact with the newly upgraded Starship, carrying its first test payload of mock satellites, but no crew, 8 minutes after liftoff from its South Texas rocket facilities at 5:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then Liz was showing us some pictures, which will be in our show notes of, and this is actually the one we're looking at with the streaks that look like, sparklers in the sky. Those are pieces of that very expensive rocket. We did lose all communications with the ship. That's essentially telling us that we've had an anomaly with the upper stage, SpaceX communications manager Dan Hote said, confirming minutes later that the ship was lost. Now, the good news is, it's kind of a good news, bad news story. The booster was the second time that the booster was successfully caught by the Mechazilla, the chopsticks on the launch tower. They actually caught the booster for the second time. So, that was the good news. The bad news was that new version of the Starship had some issues that they were going to fix. But anyway, so you never know when you're out there flying around as a pilot. You think the weather's beautiful, they've got plenty of runways, all that jazz, and then all of a sudden you get something weird like this happening. So you just got to be able to think on your what do they say? Think on your something.
Think on your feet.
Think
Except
on your feet.
You're in
There we
the
go.
air, so very hard to do that.
Yeah, you could get up, I guess, out of your seat and stand up. And say, what are you doing, sir? I'm thinking on my feet.
Yeah, exactly. It is another threat, and it's something I had never really considered. I suppose it was that common when I was still flying, but now there are competing commercial companies doing regular launches, and I'm just a little surprised that these guys didn't have more warning. Now, perhaps for when the reliability of these rockets is much better, you don't have to worry so much. But this was a test, so I'm kind of thinking, should the information be broadcast to the airlines when this is occurring? Although having said that, these launches are often delayed significantly. I'm just trying to think, because the guys that are coming across the ocean from Europe and the UK, that sort of area, down into these islands, there's not much that's behind them where they can divert to easily, because they've got, they're pretty close to their destination now. They have got presumably a bit of holding fuel. Their diversions are almost certainly on adjacent islands, which are all basically in the path of this debris. So they don't have an awful lot of options. And you think to yourself, golly, puts you in a really difficult position. And I know one bloke had to, I listened to that tape all the way through, declared a mayday in the end, and was advised that he was having, if he wanted to enter this area to go to an airfield to land, he was going to have to do so entirely at his own risk. And it kind of puts the pressure on the captain to go, well, I haven't got a lot of options now, because I'm just not carrying enough fuel to hold off until the debris all splash down. Perhaps a bit like our reaction to volcanic ash is now a lot better than it used to. We get much better warning of it and areas where it might be an issue, and we can carry extra fuel for that. But I don't know if airlines are getting the same information for rocket firings and predicted debris paths that might occur. Can they predict them accurately enough, depending on when it disintegrates? It's a real potential problem.
Right, and there's not really a lot of time. Once that first stage experiences an issue, it's just like within minutes, and all of a sudden that debris is. But honestly, I have it on a good authority that this is actually part of a secret program it's called the European Airliner Defense System that we're testing in the United States. So I think it was actually pretty successful. Yeah.
Was it a part of the Star Wars defense systems? That
I think so. Yeah.
Wasn't that Mr. Reagan started all that?
Yeah. Part of our protective.
You finally got it to work then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just in the early stages, but we're gonna fine tune it, and I'm sure that it'll work just fine.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah. So, all right, that's about it for that one. Let's move on to this next one, and we just talked about this. I believe, was it last show, Liz? Where the guy was suing, the first officer on that United 767 was suing for defamation. Well, just so happens that Liz, did you say like that night or the next day we get alerted that the final report for this incident occurred. I'm thinking, oh, good, we get to read about all that defamation. So the NTSB released their final report and investigation docket, concluding that the probable causes of the accident were: number one, listed, the first officer's improper control inputs after the airplane touchdown. Uh-oh, I guess he's not off the hook. And also contributing to the severity of the damage was the flight crew's lack of recognition that the speed brakes were not armed, which led to their delayed deployment, which of course just made things worse when trying to recover from the bounced landing. And let's see. After a stabilized approach, the main landing gear of United Airlines Flight 702 touched down. It was a 767, 300, I believe. The nose wheel contacted the runway harder than expected. The airplane then bounced. The first officer, the pilot flying, or the pilot in command, some say, reacted by pulling the control yoke aft to keep the nose wheel from impacting the runway a second time. The first officer applied thrust reverse, the speed brakes deployed, and the nose wheel bounced a second time. And then, of course, subsequently, the nose wheel impacted the runway a third time, and then finally they got the whole thing to decelerate normally. And the abnormal nose wheel impacts with the runway resulted in substantial damage to the fuselage. Although the first officer stated he had held aft pressure on the control column during the initial touchdown, flight data showed that he also made nose down column inputs during the landing sequence. These nose-down inputs contributed to the nose wheel abnormally impacting the runway. And, of course, as I mentioned, the lack of arming the speed brakes, auto speed brakes, was definitely a factor as well. I'm not sure what their procedures are at United, but I know that at my former airline and the fleet that I was assigned to fly, that's one of those things where I don't know if we actually verbalized it, or I'm thinking, yeah, I'm pretty sure we did on the before landing or the landing checklist to ensure that everybody was aware that the speed brakes were indeed armed for automatic deployment once we had a main gear touchdown and spin up. Anyway, derotation is the lowering of the aircraft's nose gear to the runway following a touchdown on the main gear. The first officer's nose down column inputs were contrary to United Airlines procedures and training. The first officer's training records showed inconsistencies in airplane handling as recent as a few months before the accident. He received an unsatisfactory performance rating. In other words, he failed the check ride. And upon reevaluation, a satisfactory rating with a condition to recheck after 90 days instead of 9 months. This was due to, among other things, marginal performance with landings. The NTSB,
few flags there.
And then, doing all this analysis, they said due to the satisfactory performance rating on the first officer's second evaluation, the investigation was unable to determine if the first officer's training inconsistencies contributed to the accident. So they're not making it one of the contributions or causes to the accident. And I just took a little excerpt of the final report. He received a satisfactory performance rating the second time, but he received minimum grade in 3 areas, and one of which was landings, which resulted in that short cycle training event cycle or whatever. Yeah, so I'm not sure that this this final report from the NTSB is going to do him any good when it comes to his court case for defamation.
No, but his court case was really revolved around the terms used in describing him as the aircraft commander. I think that was the crux of his complaint. Was that they suggested that he was in sole command of the aircraft, and as such, he said that would make him very hard to employ. Afterwards, I think this report equally will make him very hard for him to be employed. It's an interesting one. I'm curious what the standard procedures are on this aircraft. Does the pilot monitoring arm the speed brakes for the pilot flying, or does he do it himself?
I believe that I'm trying to remember now how I did it on the Mad Dog and 717 fleet. If I were the one that always armed after the extension of the gear, or I think the pilot monitoring would actually lower the landing gear handle, and then the landing checklist or the flow pattern, the pilot monitoring would arm the spoiler handle or put it in the proper position for automatic deployment. And then the landing checklist required both pilot flying and pilot monitoring to ensure that it was actually indeed in the correct position.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
it's just that
that's the case.
I mean, I can understand why he might have had a few problems with his first touchdown, because if the spoilers don't deploy, the aircraft's much more liable to bounce. But I suspect this is something that many of the pilots, whether they be first officers or captains, have to deal with, because it's probably not an uncommon occurrence when someone forgets to do something like on the speed brakes. You're expected to be able to handle that situation. And I suspect there's probably a certain amount of reference to it in the training manuals, indicating how you do it. And I would be very surprised if they weren't given a little bit of simulator time, to get used to the fact that when the aircraft doesn't have speed brakes armed, it's going to behave like this, and you land the aircraft like this instead. But certainly he wasn't that experienced, so I have a certain amount of sympathy with him. When he deployed the thrust reversers, I believe, regardless, the spoilers at that point deploy. Even though they weren't armed for the first touchdown, once the thrust levers are idle and the thrust reverse is selected, they come out. So we shouldn't have had any problem there. But it sounds to me like if he was having a few problems with the landing phase, this would have made his handling issues come out in stark light if he was, put in the difficult situation of dealing with a bounce without spoilers, and he may not have had the skill to cope with that very well.
Yep. And you're correct regarding the once the reverse is deployed, regardless of the position of the automatic speed brake deployment handle or spoiler handle, they will extend. According to the Boeing 767 Flight Crew Training Manual, dated June 30, 2023, after main gear touchdown, initiate the landing roll procedure. Fly the nose wheel smoothly onto the runway without delay. If the speed brakes do not extend automatically, move the speed brake lever to the up position without delay. Control column movement forward of neutral should not be required. Do not attempt to hold the nose wheels off the runway. Holding the nose up after touchdown for aerodynamic braking is not an effective braking technique and results in high nose gear sink rates upon brake application and reduced braking effectiveness. Of course, the last part of that really doesn't apply to this situation. But yeah, so as you said, it's not totally uncommon or, out of the ordinary.
Not unheard of?
Yeah, not unheard of. Maybe that's a better way to say it. That this should happen, and I'm sure during their training that they go through this. Okay, this is what happens when, the pilot monitoring didn't arm the spoilers, and this is the way you handle it. So, yeah.
But if you're having problems with your ordinary landings, then this is going to really highlight any lack of skill that's apparent.
I agree.
So, I mean, that's not really the point, because I think he was still under probation. The company weren't satisfied with his ability to fly the airplane, and they sacked him. The court case really is a bit of, I think it's a
last gasp effort to get some coin.
Yeah, to get something back, having been robbed of his job, as it were.
Yeah, and of course, we'll have to say that we don't have definitive proof that he was on probation. I kind of assumed it because of the fact that had he been off of probation, that there would have is likely that he would have just received extensive retraining and other measures from the company, but he would probably still be on their seniority list. So,
yeah, I think we were discussing whether the union were involved with this, and apparently they weren't, which indicates that he probably hadn't completed his probation.
Agreed. All right. Let's see. Moving on. Speaking of landings, this from the Aviation Herald. A Copa Airlines Boeing 737-800, registration Hotel Papa 1712 Charlie Mike Papa. Whew, that's a mouthful. Performing flight 391 from San Jose, Costa Rica to Guatemala City, Guatemala, was on final approach to Guatemala City's runway 02. An Avianca Airbus A320-200, registration November 904 Alpha Victor, performing flight 651 from Guatemala City to San Jose, had lined up on runway 2 and was accelerating for takeoff when the Boeing on final, the Copa, went around, continuing on runway heading. According to ADS-B data transmitted by both aircraft, the separation between the aircraft subsequently reduced to 0 feet vertical, that's not a lot, and about 0.27 nautical miles.
Good Lord.
So just a hair over a quarter of a mile when the Airbus climbed through 6,000 feet, about just ahead of the Boeing, because the Boeing was leveled at 6,000 feet. The Airbus subsequently turned right, and the Boeing turned left, taking the aircraft on diverging flight trajectories. Now, as a point of order, I'd say it's a little bit too late for that now, because, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Civil Aviation Authority of Guatemala, the DGAC, opened an investigation into the occurrence. The airlines reported they were not aware of any occurrence. They only learned of this possible occurrence through social media. Yay, social media. Social media's come to the rescue. Anyway, and then a former director of the DGAC filed a criminal complaint against the DGAC with the Public Prosecutor Office related to the occurrence. I don't really understand what that means. Yeah, sounds like some internal stuff going on there.
Yeah, a bit of politics going on there.
Captain Nick, again,
yes, sir.
The thing that I don't see in this article here is the what the weather conditions were like, which I think is kind of critical. If it's a situation where it's not like clear in a million or good visual meteorological conditions, then I kind of have a little bit of understanding and patience with the Boeing flight, the Copa, that just maintained runway heading during their go-around, knowing that the reason that they went around was because the guy on the runway was climbing straight ahead right up into their path. However, I'm guessing that maybe the weather wasn't bad, and my question is just why? I mean, and I've mentioned this many times on the show, where if I don't have like a mountain right there that I can't really turn and kind of offset off the runway, in the runway area a little bit, so that I can kind of keep my eye on the person that is potentially going to kill me by flying right up into me. But I just don't help me understand, why did this guy on the go just continue tracking straight down the runway? I mean, did he not understand that that's going to be a problem?
I really don't know. I mean, it doesn't actually say what he was told to do. Because if he announced he was going around and the controller said continue runway heading, you don't have a lot of option, really.
I think so. I would say, respectfully, I'm gonna offset a little bit here.
Yeah, you can jink to one side, but sometimes it's very hard to get visual on the aircraft that's taking off, because we haven't got, we're not a fighter aircraft. We can't drop a wing very easily and peer down to see where this bloke is. And in the same way, the guy getting airborne can't see up through the roof of his cockpit to see where the guy above him is. We're all kind of staring at TCAS to see. And, of course, the TCAS, depending on the phase of flight, may not be giving any information. Hopefully, but when these guys came close, they're up at 6,000 feet. So hopefully TCAS is fully active and able to keep them apart. But it doesn't sound like they reacted to TCAS in any way. But going back to your point, yes and no. If I was trying to do a go round, it's quite a busy time on the flight deck, and trying to do a little jink in a big aeroplane in order to be able to peer over the edge of the cockpit window and try and get sight of this guy, meanwhile doing all the cleanup that happens directly after a go round, is not the easiest thing in the world. He was a 737, so that's a smaller aircraft and more maneuverable. So yeah, for him it wouldn't be so hard. But I would have sympathy if it was a big airplane, not feeling able to do that. I do worry though that some of these go-arounds do track the runway. Some of the controllers order you to go straight ahead, when in reality the best thing you can possibly do when you've initiated a go-around, particularly if it's just short of the runway, is to combine it with a turn that takes you away from the aircraft that might be getting airborne. Because a couple of times this happened to me in my career, when somebody was getting airborne, I had been sent around because we had insufficient distance between us and the aircraft that was taking off. In other words, the controller got us too tight, send us around. And of course, that often coincides with the guy that's just getting airborne. And particularly if he's a little bit behind you, even doing a jink to try and get a bit of separation isn't going to get you visual on him. It might generate a bit of separation to stop you bumping into each other. But whether you're going to be allowed, whether the controller's going to get all upset with you because you're not obeying his instructions or not, I don't know.
Again, maybe it's just because I grew up flying in the cowboy world, but it's like, use your pilot brain. I mean, regardless of whether you've been given a good heading or not, you just have to me, and again, I know you may disagree with me, but I just think that wasn't good situational awareness. And I put the onus mostly on that guy that was on the go, because the guy that's just taking off has limited maneuverability and really has, there's so many, I know there are a lot of things going on in both of these jets at this time, but still, I think the one that would be most important, have most prominence in my pilot brain, would be get away from that airplane that's taking off, because they're going to go right up in front of me, and that's no good. In fact, I think MetroDoc agrees with that that feeling. That would have been an awful Airbus-Boeing merger. Yes.
Oh, it nearly was.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
So,
it nearly was.
I don't know. I just.
But what the hell was the controller doing? Both the tower controller and everybody else at the time not to separate these aircraft when they must know how hard it is to see each other.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I agree. That's their responsibility, basically, is to keep these big pieces of metal apart. Keep them from hitting each other. That is absolutely a true statement. But if they're not going to help in any way at this moment, I'm going to take measures in my own hands and do a little bit of. I'm not saying like I'm not going to be in a F-18 rolling into 90 degrees of bank and pulling 4 Gs. I'm going to make a nice little, offset heading, just a little bit. Doesn't take a big thing, just to kind of get that, a little bit of margin of error, kind of thing. Anyway, that's just my feeling.
No, I do agree. It's just that, most of the long-haul flights went to big multiple runways, big airports, a lot of aircraft around. And, you had to be quite a brave guy to just do just a little bit of visual maneuvering in the middle of a go-around in that kind of busy airspace.
That's that's a different environment, totally, I think.
So I was never used to doing the sort of thing that you would perhaps at a quieter airport when you felt that you were perfectly safe doing a maneuver like that. I used to get shouted at too much.
All right. I think that it is somewhat mountainous, but I can't really tell from this top view. The topography there. I also want to add that they mentioned that the Boeing on the go around leveled at 6, and the near miss occurred as the Airbus was flying through 6,000 feet. And I'm thinking, well, it sounds like it's way up there, but the field elevation is 4,900 feet. So it was only a little over 1,000 feet above ground when this occurred. So, yeah, that is something.
That kind of brings it back into perspective. They were, both aircraft were still in quite a vulnerable regime of flight, relatively low speed and all busy moving flaps and slats and stuff and gear. Yep. So it's not an ideal situation to be in.
I'm just happy that we're not reading about a major aircraft accident. We're only looking at a potentially bad situation. In this case. Okay. And as usual, I've been doing this show for 15 and a half years. The truth is that, of course, I'm a better pilot than almost everybody in the world. So that's
certainly
why
better than me.
Oh, of course. I'm better than everyone, Nick. Come on, you know that. That was part of the thing that you signed, the contract.
Well, I'm better than
You'd
all
have
the
to
other
admit that.
people. I'm better than all the other people, and you're better than
Okay.
me. So that just
Yeah, number one. And what do they call that? What was the last show? The Bad Boys of Bad Boys in Aviation or whatever. That's who we
yeah,
are.
absolutely.
Of course, I'm kidding. Everybody, well, you should know that. Unless you're like a brand new listener, you're going, what kind of an egotist is this guy? Well, just stick around, you'll find out. Okay, this next one is from the Aviation Herald as well, and it involves a West Atlantic ATR 72-200 registration Golf November Papa Tango Foxtrot performing flight MPT 0. Okay, flight 7B. That's one of my favorite flights from East Midlands to Belfast International. Was en route when the aircraft suffered restricted rudder travel. The aircraft continued to Aldergrove Airport for a safe landing on runway 25 about 1 hour after departure. The UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch rated the occurrence a serious incident. Yeah, you need to have a rudder on these airplanes. And opened up an investigation, also stating that the rudder travel restriction continued after landing and during taxi. The aircraft still on the ground in Belfast 9 days after landing. Of course, this occurred on March 7th, 2023, so I'm hoping it's not still on the ground. March 7th? That's your birthday, Liz? Oh, happy birthday.
Oh.
Well,
perhaps that's why it happened.
Yeah, could be. Okay, so on January 17, 2023, the aircraft had suffered electrical issues, keeping the aircraft on the ground for about a week. And then on March 7th, so I don't know, let me do the math, 2.5 months later, month and a half later, during the AAIB reported during the landing flare, the flight crew encountered a rudder control restriction and used nose wheel steering for directional control on the runway. Examination of the aircraft the following day revealed that the rudder was almost immovable, either using the rudder pedals in the cockpit or by physically pressing on the rudder itself. Oh, so do they mean, like actually going over and putting your hand on the rudder and
Yep,
trying to
I think
move
that's
it?
what
Okay.
they mean, yes.
The investigation is nearing completion and has focused on determining the reason for the restriction of the rudder control system. So they've been doing their investigation, and then finally they released their final bulletin on November 28, 2024, concluding that following an extensive history of reports of stiffness within the rudder control system, the flight crew experienced rudder stiffness during the full and free control check prior to the flight. Aware of the recent maintenance interventions, which were considered to have resolved the problem, the flight crew elected to continue with the flight. I'm not sure I would have wanted, especially knowing that this was an issue. They subsequently encountered excessive rudder stiffness during the landing flare, which rendered the rudder pedals almost immovable. 2 support bearings on the rudder rear quadrant shaft were found to be corroded. Trapped moisture in the aircraft's rear bay probably contributed to the condition of the bearings. Unable to rotate freely, the bearings would have resisted the movement of the rudder rear quadrant shaft, leading to the stiffness. Other anomalies observed in the rudder control system may have contributed to the stiffness, but to a lesser extent. I don't know what bearing that has on anything. Let's see. So they issued a service bulletin. No, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, they did back in 1993.
Yes,
that existed to replace the affected bearings with
10 years
corrosion
before.
resistance. Yeah, apparently, maybe they ended up putting in non-corrosion resistant bearings or something.
Well, that was what the notice was suggesting they do that. I don't think they made it, the service bulletin made it compulsory, but it was a recommendation.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Nick. I remember, coming to an airplane, and we review as the pilot in the command the relatively short-term history of the jet before we, take command of it and deem its airworthiness. Right? We look and see if there's anything going on that we might be aware of that, may be helpful if we experience something that we're not expecting. If I see an airplane has just gone through some kind of a maintenance procedure, like let's say in this instance, the rudder stiffness or, that kind of deal. And then when I did my control checks heading out to the runway, and they did really feel super stiff. And to me, I don't know about you, but it just seems like, okay, I don't think they fixed this issue. I don't think I'm going to take this jet. I think we're going to taxi back to the gate and have engineers take a look at this thing again, make sure that it's all good before we go flying with several people. But I don't know.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I'm not quite sure. You see, this can be a little bit hard to quantify how stiff is the rudder.
True.
So, and it might be something that was just happening and then easing and then occurring again. But certainly if it had been like it was for their landing when they were doing their control check before takeoff, I definitely think they would have turned around, because it was so stiff after landing. They couldn't taxi without nose wheel steering. They literally could barely move the rudders. So I'd be very surprised if it was like that when they did their control checks. And they'd done some, they'd done some pretty good maintenance things. They'd replaced the TLU and the RCU and the rudder dampener for a second time, and did extensive troubleshooting, including getting in touch with the manufacturer, ATR, and the operator indicated that these actions had, at least to some extent, alleviated the perceived stiffness. Because I don't know if there's an official way to measure how stiff something is. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Thank you. So I've got a little bit of, I've got sympathy with the crew, because if they did it and they went, well, it doesn't feel ideal, but they've done all this work on it, it's bound to have got to the bottom of it now. And but to me, if those bearings were as bad as they became by the end of the flight, I find it hard to understand how the engineers managed to do all that work and all that testing that they would have done on the system and be able to get it sufficiently free for it to pass their checks. From that point of view, I've got to look at the engineers and go, guys, what was it like when you finished doing all your troubleshooting and all your replacement of parts? You can't just replace parts and say you fixed it. You must actually try the damn thing out. And if you don't think you fixed it, keep going, keep looking for the fault, because it was obviously a serious issue with these corroded bearings, and that really is bad. I gather those corroded bearings also go back to the fact that the design of the aircraft allowed water to ingress into the area where those bearings were, which is why they suggested they couldn't stop the airplane leaking, but it did suggest putting in better bearings that weren't going to rust so easily. But the fact that had been suggested 10 years prior and they never got around to doing it is a bit of a worry, isn't it? Yeah.
That is. It reminded me a little bit. It wasn't long ago that we were talking about all this spate of, every other news or incident in the news was the 737 MAX. But I remember wasn't the MAX that had some issues, like on landing, that the rudder pedals were really stiff and some almost immovable. But I never, that kind of just came up and then just disappeared. I wonder whatever happened.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe somebody listening will be able to remind us, or at least maybe they know something about that, and whatever they discovered was going wrong, or how they resolved it, or whatever. I just don't, maybe I'm making things up in my mind, like as I do. But so that's an interesting one for sure. Oh, well, Neil Lanwarn says it's incredible that a test wouldn't involve making sure the thing works after you've repaired it. Yeah, that's what.
Well, I'm pretty sure it would have done, and whether this fault was intermittent enough for them to be convinced that they had fixed it after replacing all those parts and speaking to the manufacturer. But yeah.
Okay. And then Neil also says unexpected stiffness is a serious problem. Well, I don't know. I guess it could be embarrassing if you're out in public or something. Yeah, you got to be careful about the lasting more than 4 hours warning. All right, let's continue moving on with this one, another one from the Aviation Herald, a final report involving this one. Emirates 777-300 performing Flight 231 from Dubai to Washington Dulles, D.C., with 354 passengers and 18 crew, was accelerated for takeoff. This happened on December 20th of 2021. Yeah, a long time ago, too. Let's see, that would have been basically more than a little over 3 years ago. And I do remember us talking about this, and we were just kind of perplexed as how something like this could possibly happen. The aircraft rotated for takeoff past the end of the runway, became airborne just at the end of the runway end safety area. The aircraft continued to Washington Dulles for a landing without further incident. According to Mode S data transmitted by the aircraft's transponder, the aircraft remained on the ground until accelerating through at least 216 knots over the ground, about 14,400 feet past the runway threshold, and about 90 meters short of the localizer antennas. I know for sure that that's not a good thing. You don't want to hit those things. Was airborne at 75 feet AGL at 234 knots over the ground and over the first residential houses past the runway, about 18,500 feet past the runway threshold, and then climbed out to safety. According to some information that the Aviation Herald received, the aircraft sustained some damage in the departure. There's also information that a total of 4 crew members, I think all of them that were on duty, probably all of them in that cockpit during that flight, may have been dismissed as a result of the occurrence. There was a bulletin released on the 27th of December of that year, a crew alert to their pilots following the occurrence, suggesting that the crew had not picked up that the previous flight crew had left the altitude setting on the master control panel at airport elevation 0 feet, causing the flight director to not indicate takeoff, rotation, and climb out, but instead indicate to maintain that altitude. So, okay, and then they have a copy of the narrative of that crew alert. Let's scroll down here to the final report and what they concluded as the probable cause of this serious incident. Let's see. The Air Accident Investigation Sector of the United Arab Emirates determines that the cause of the shallow climb incident was the pitch down below the required pitch attitude required for achieving a positive and safe rate of climb. The commander followed flight director commands reflected in the flight mode annunciator, the FMA, that were not appropriate for the takeoff flight phase. Yeah, no blank, Sherlock. The inappropriate pitch flight director commands were a result of incorrect AFDS pitch mode setting in the flight director that went unnoticed by the flight crew. Okay, so basically what happened here, somebody, and this is, I don't know if it's common in the Airbus or if it's even something that you can actually do, but in the Boeings and McDonnell Douglases, a lot of times it's just as a habit pattern, we kind of set things in the flight control panels and stuff like that for the next crew. Although in this case, setting in 0 in the altitude alert window, I don't see how that's going to help anybody, and obviously it didn't help this crew. But for instance, in Atlanta, I know that a lot of people doing the after landing cleanup flow will set 10,000 feet in the altitude select window, because that's just what you do out of Atlanta. That's going to be your altitude limit on almost every departure, or all of them actually, unless Tower tells you to maintain a lower altitude. But 10,000 feet is it. And so just as a courtesy to the next crew, we just kind of put in that's one less thing for them to do. Of course, they'll go through and check to make sure everything is set up properly. In this case, it looks like that was missed, that the altitude was set as 0 in there. Okay, that's a contributor to this, but I don't think that's the reason why this happened. The co-pilot, as the pilot monitoring, was aware of the incorrect pitch mode activation, during this takeoff. However, he could not rectify it. He couldn't figure out why, and did not bring it to the commander's attention. Boom, that's a big red flag. That should have been something that he brought to the commander's attention.
That's a sin.
But I think you'll agree with me, Captain Nick, that we learn how to fly, and we have a concept called control performance. So you set certain parameters that you expect a normal airplane, normal thrust setting, normal conditions. You're going to rotate on initial departure to, let's say, the airplane that I flew for the past 20-something years. You shoot for about 18 degrees, which is a pretty high initial pitch rate. I agree, based on all the other airplanes I've flown. But still, 18 degrees, that's our target, and then no more than 20, our flight manual said. And so that's what we're going to do. Every takeoff, you're going to rotate up to 8, unless you lose an engine, then of course you're going to look for like 12.5 degrees. But you're looking at your attitude indicator, your control instrument. That's what you're going to set with the power set at the proper thrust setting. And then you look at all your performance instruments, your airspeed, your rate of climb, all these other things to verify that what the control inputs are that you put in are working out as they should. How somebody with this much experience follows the flight director pitch bar and almost to a point where it guided him to crash. But they didn't crash, thank God. But you see where I'm having some trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't understand how you just blindly follow a pitch director bar.
No.
I mean, are you kidding me?
I was going to say slavishly follow the flight director commands when it's commanding you to do something so unusual for that stage of flight. Alarm bells should have been ringing all through her head, the pilot's head. So I don't know if it was her. Anyway, you're exactly right. And what's more, there are phases of flight when you are obliged sometimes to look through the flight directors. In other words, you're setting attitudes on your main instruments and ignoring the flight directors because you know for a fact that they, in this stage of flight, or perhaps that you're waiting for the pilot handling to turn a heading knob or something, then it's not appropriate to follow them. But why on earth they thought that they needed to do what they were doing during the takeoff phase just defies all logic. And I've no idea why you would do that. And it's a great worry to me that there are pilots out there who will do that, because it should have really gone, oh, my instruments have failed, or my instruments aren't indicating correctly. If you can't recognize that, because not only looking at your instruments, but looking out the damn window and seeing the end of the runway go steaming past, and you're still basically at 0 feet, I'm going, what were you doing?
Not only him, but what were the other 3 pilots doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I were in the jump seat, I would have go rotate,
rotate. Or I have control. Woof.
Yeah, if you're sitting in the other control seat, but if you're like in one of the jump seats, I mean, you're just like, let me grab that yoke and pull it back so that we can climb. iHull Boxes says in our live audience, oh my God, control performance technique. OMG, I'm sorry. That's so 2024. Control performance. Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks, iHull Boxes. I guess that's not a thing anymore, huh? Yeah. Yeah, we don't know.
1824. Is that what you're saying?
That's way old school, isn't it? I know, we know that he's joshing there with us, but still, it's like, how does something like this happen? Especially not only one. If this did happen in a normal crew, your first officer would have said, "Hey, boss, you need to rotate. Just look through or disregard the flight director bar. For some reason, we're not in the right mode." Set the pitch to where it's supposed to be, or something. I don't know. I know that's a lot of words to say in the moment, but I'd probably be yelling, "Pull up!" Pull up. What are you doing?
And the fact that
I'm gonna die.
the co-pilot monitoring was aware of that and didn't rectify it because he couldn't remember how to reset the mode. The Airbus is full of stuff like that. Actually, you go, oh, that's really odd parameters there. How do we get back to what we should do? Because sometimes it's just a bit of a trick, like you turn off both flight directors simultaneously and turn them back on again. That resets some information in there, but it was a regular thing you'd do. If you saw an unusual indication in the windows there, that was the trick to get back to where you wanted to be. And the fact that they couldn't remember how to do that, well, you don't just sit on that information. You tell someone about it.
So, in this case, there probably wasn't any time to do what you just described there. It's the interface between humans and machine. The machine does a bunch of wonderful things for us, and for the most part, keeps us safe, but not always. Sometimes it can lead you down the primrose path and to some place you don't want to be. But that's where the human mind goes, this is not right. This does not look right. I need to do something. I need to revert to something more fundamental about flying airplanes. And then we'll figure it out later how to resolve this situation. But now's not the time to worry about it. Children of the magenta. Yeah. Good point. I mean, that's just kind of evidence of that kind of philosophy, which is no good. Peter says, if in doubt, fly the damn airplane. Exactly. Aviate, navigate, communicate. I know that some people would say, well, aviate means you follow all the flight director commands slavishly. And no, you don't. I think I've shared this before, but I think it's a good thing to share again. I used to fly with some people, thankfully not many. One in particular that I kind of recall, where he was so slavishly stuck with not doing anything when he's manually flying the airplane until he saw something that would indicate that he is supposed to turn or climb or descend, like this situation here. And I was kind of wondering to myself, what happens, Jeff, as a pilot monitoring, if we get a heading, if we're taking off out of Miami on 27 left, the south runway, heading to the west, and we almost always get a right turn on that departure that we normally fly for the destinations that we normally go. So I was expecting a northwesterly heading to begin with. And so sure enough, tower tells us fly heading 330. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I just kind of hesitate to roll in 330 degrees on the heading and, pull it, I think is what we did to select it. If I don't do that, I wonder what he's going to do. And I suspected that he was not going to do anything with that airplane until he saw the flight director bar move over to the right, indicating that he should be turning, banking the airplane to the right to fly that new heading. And so I waited for about as long as I could without, being, at risk of being violated because we were not doing what tower told us to do. And sure enough, it just kept on tracking straight out west. And I looked over at him and said, you can go ahead and turn. And he just kept on flying exactly what that flight director bar was indicating. I'm thinking, dude, man, you gotta fly the airplane and then don't, I'm sorry. It's just one of those things that just really gets to me. I-Haul boxes in their audience, GPWS, don't sink. And the guy's hearing, don't think. Well, yeah.
It's a worry.
I don't know.
And this habit, I have to say, it was a comment there that this wouldn't have happened if the guys leaving the cockpit hadn't had this habit of setting all the windows to zeros, which is a stupid thing to do. Who the hell?
It doesn't. Not
Who
loving
the hell needs to do that? It's just boredom. I'll just tidy up everything. All right,
Yeah.
you can leave the straps of the seat, in a nice layout if you want to. But, God, I mean, you were setting someone up for a fall, and eventually, I finally know the commander was a lady. Not that it makes the slightest difference, but it was a she, so I wasn't wrong there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't remembered that particular data point. But but even if you do, probably not advised to, or like set up something like what we used to do routinely by putting a departure. We'd like pulling into the gate, and we'd look at where this airplane was going next, and sometimes we'd put in, to be helpful, the frequency for the departure control going that direction off of the Atlanta airport and 10,000 feet and that kind of thing. And even if that's maybe not advised, it's still the responsibility and obligation of the incoming crew that's going to be flying that jet to make sure during their pre-flight that everything is set properly. Now, it may not have helped that somebody put in something wrong, but still, I think the onus is on the crew that was flying that airplane, regardless of what was set there. They did.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah.
So, wow. I mean, if Simon is correct and the information that he received regarding the crew no longer employed by this airline, I guess that's good. I don't know.
Well, if they felt they couldn't train them out of it, then yes, I guess it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Liz. Should we continue with the news? Okay. Okay, shall we talk about a couple of turbulence news items?
Oh,
injuries.
Yeah, I always love a bit of turbulence.
Yeah. Oh, the episode 648 is starting to get a little bit bumpy, isn't it?
Helps rock me asleep.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it as severe as possible. Aviation Herald again, a final report on an American A321 near Charlotte, North Carolina, on 8 August 2024, last year. Turbulence injures 4 cabin crew. An American Airlines 321-200 was performing flight 2905 from Tampa to Charlotte, was descending through flight level 200 towards Charlotte, about 80 nautical miles south of Charlotte. So they're on the arrival when the aircraft encountered turbulence, causing serious injuries to 1 and minor injuries to 3 cabin crew. The aircraft continued for a safe landing 20 minutes later. On the 17th of January 2025, so not long ago, 5 days ago, the NTSB released their final report and said that the probable cause of the accident was the aircraft's encounter with convectively induced turbulence. Okay, so what does that mean? That's not clear air turbulence. That's turbulence that you get from convection, which is the term that we use for thunderstorms or cumulonimbus clouds. American Airlines Flight 2905. Okay, they're kind of rehashing the flight details going from Tampa to Charlotte. They were coming into Charlotte. Let's see. After reviewing the weather prior to flight, the flight crew stated that they opted for a cruising altitude of flight level 250 based on a PIREP, a pilot report, describing smooth air between 25 and 26. During the cruise, they did not observe weather in the 100 miles ahead of them, and the clouds that they saw appeared to be below them. As they approached the top of descent, the crew described going heads down for a few minutes to load performance data into the flight management computer and to review the arrival procedure into Charlotte. Okay. It's not uncommon, although if you're flying around thunderstorms and that kind of thing, it's sometimes a good idea to kind of mention to the other pilot you're flying with, hey, kind of keep your eyes on what's going on, or flight path and that kind of thing going outside. I mean, it's not necessarily a great idea for everybody to be heads down as you're flying something speeding through the sky.
No, we would have got slapped hands for that.
Exactly. I bet that, if you're in the simulator and somebody is watching you, your trainer, your instructor, your evaluator, saw both of you with heads down without at least one of you saying, hey, you have the airplane. I'm going to go ahead and review the approach plate and the arrival procedure and everything else, and then we'll have a briefing. That sort of thing. And that's actually kind of a cool thing to do in the real airplane too.
Absolutely.
The crew described that when they looked up, they saw a rapidly building cumulus cloud directly ahead of the airplane. Oh no! Too close to maneuver around. The first officer immediately eliminated the seatbelt sign. Now that'll fix everything. That's for the lawyers. And the airplane penetrated the top of the cloud. Flight data showed that during the event, the airplane encountered load factors ranging from about 0.17 G, so almost completely weightlessness, to 2.75 G.
Ouch.
Which classifies as extreme turbulence. Yeah, no wonder there were some injuries of the flight attendants who were doing their cleanup, from their beverage service, and I think that most of them just suffered minor injuries, but one of the flight attendants, Flight Attendant 3, fractured both ankles. Yikes! That's no good. I think.
But it's funny. They say there it says fractured both ankles.
Yeah.
Earlier, it says they had a double hip fracture.
Yeah, I think the reason why I didn't read that initially is because I think that maybe that happened right after the accident. Maybe they got some bad information about the actual injury.
Okay, gotcha.
And so, that's why I decided to stick with just the final report regarding the ankles instead. Although, man,
I don't know which is worse. Nick,
a double hip fracture, that
would be horrendous.
Horrible. Yeah. It's probably a lot easier to fix the ankles than it is to do a hip replacement procedure. Are they? Okay. Well, hey, I'm no doctor, never claimed to be one. Okay, our doctor is on her way, and she should be joining us here in the next maybe 20 minutes or so, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So I think, Captain Nick, what do you what we just kind of talked about regarding, somebody needs to mind the store.
And this is a classic, really, where, you can understand it. It's a very easy trap to fall into, which is why the trainers, when they see both pilots head down, they make a point of it, usually. You get a tap on the shoulder and you go, look, guys, you're both heads down. What are you doing? One of you's got to be looking out the damn windows, because you know how quickly these clouds build up. I mean, wow.
And 1 minute push that thing on the computer.
1 minute it's clear blue, then it's and the sky's full of clouds.
Yeah.
So I suspect they were both heads down, not paying attention, and they just didn't see it until it was too late to avoid. Because normally you get these isolated cues. It doesn't take much just to scoot round these. Just only needs 10 or 20 miles of notice. But when it's right in front of you and it's in a very active thunderhead or a bit of cloud, then you're going to get some bumps and lumps and bumps in there. And this is just very sad, because that 2.75 G almost certainly exceeded the G limits of the aircraft, so it would have had to have been grounded and gone into for a fairly detailed inspection for an over G. And it wouldn't go a lot over, but it would have to have been checked out, which would have necessitated probably a day on the ground. So annoying for them, dreadful for the cabin crew, because they're almost obliged to be on their feet, often till the last moment, just tidying up the airplane and checking all the passengers, making sure that they're all secured for landing. Dreadful. And I hope the pilots feel suitably admonished for this, because
Hope so.
it's a. I know it's easy. It happens easily, but it's something that we all go, oh God, I'm glad that never happened to me.
Yeah. Okay, Neil says, at Birmingham, we often heard of turbulence resulting from wind rotor off the two hangars on the west side of the airport. Do local reports get specific enough to warn of such a thing? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, rotors are a common form of low-level turbulence that most pilots are aware of. It can happen off buildings. More usually, it's usually in the lee of high ground. if you get big rotors. So we understand when if there are rotors around, and it's very dangerous, a rotor. It's a sort of, imagine a wave that's curling over and spinning. If you get caught in one of those, the downdrafts or the downside of that rotor can be very powerful, which can, because they're at low level, it can drag you into the ground. And the turbulence involved with them, with all the wind, the shearing of the wind, because of the different speeds, can be extremely poor. So if you're someone who does pipeline inspections and that kind of flying, that's the sort of things you're really worried about, getting into some of those when the wind is particularly strong and the conditions are suitable for it.
And I think that in general, pilots are mostly aware of that type of phenomena or phenomenon associated with that particular phenomenon. Thank you. But and then if the winds are coming from a certain direction, you should be anyway thinking about the fact that this is possible that you could encounter. And Liz is asking if they would mention it in NOTAMs. I don't know if they would in a NOTAM, but I bet that if they have a company issued information sheet or information guide to a particular airport, that would be something that is, that you might want to brief and that kind of thing. But I think more pertinently, this comment from iHaul Boxes, long layover and a nice captain could have caused the double hip fracture. Okay. Another inappropriate comment from iHaul Boxes that I should not have brought up, but I thought it was pretty funny. So, yeah, I know you were, Liz, but that deserves a... Okay.
Yeah. Liz asked if you get that sort of info in NOTAMs. Not really, but you're right, Jeff. The airfield briefing that the company usually issue, that will have that sort of thing. But generally speaking, if you can know the wind direction as you're coming down towards the airport environment, if you see hangars and you think, oh, that's just where the wind's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if you've never been there before, I bet your backside tightens up a little bit.
And use your pilot brain. Once again, that seems to be a common theme here today. Nishant in our live audience mentions, even if it was mentioned in a NOTAM, nobody would know about it. Nobody reads the NOTAMs.
That's what NOTAMs are. They're just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah. So, there we have it. There's that turbulence incident. And here's the next one. Yeah, let's fast forward or zoom on Google Earth over to the other side of the world near Brisbane. A Qantas 737-800 was performing flight 528 from Sydney to Brisbane. They were en route at flight level 370 nearing the top of descent when the crew engaged the fasten seatbelt signs due to upcoming turbulence. Okay, thinking ahead, preparing for the possibility of turbulence. About 4 to 5 minutes later, while descending through flight level 330, the aircraft encountered turbulence that lasted about 45 to 60 seconds. That's a long time, causing injuries to 3 passengers. The crew declared pan-pan, requested medical assistance to be available upon arrival, and continued for a safe landing in Brisbane. About 30 minutes later, Australia's TSB released an occurrence brief stating, the fact that they, just before descent, they turned the seatbelt sign on. They did make an announcement for all passengers to return to their seats and to fasten their seatbelts. And then, so they encountered the severe turbulence for about 45 to 60 seconds. And I'm thinking even 5 seconds of severe turbulence is too much, but 45 to 60, that's bad. One passenger who was in the lavatory prior to the seatbelt sign being turned on did not return to their seat before the turbulence encounter. Okay, so that I can kind of give that one a little bit of a break, right? You're in the middle of whatever procedure, and you're thinking, okay, I'd rather take on the turbulence than have to deal with walking down the aisle with my pants around my ankles. and another passenger with a small child ignored the seatbelt sign. What? Passengers ignore seatbelt signs? That can't be true. And cabin crew requested that they return to their seats. And I guess that was ignored as well, and proceeded with the child to the second toilet, where they remained during the turbulence encounter. The door to this toilet was damaged during the turbulence, likely from passenger impact, and was unable to be opened. An off-duty pilot assisted removing the door to access the two passengers inside. All three passengers sustained minor injuries and were provided with first aid by the crew. That's the cabin crew. Well, that's the good news of this. I mean, it could have been severe injuries, with a severe turbulence encounter. Yeah. What do you think, Captain Nick? You think that they all deserved it, or maybe just the lady that brought her child to the lounge?
There are no seatbelts on the toilets in an aeroplane. Nope. So it's not a good place to be in turbulence. Let alone, I mean, it's not an Airbus, which has very little water in the bowl. But you can bet your bottom dollar if it's a Boeing within the blue water flushing around, that they probably got splattered, which can't be very pleasant, let alone the risk of injury, and particularly to a child, because while you as an adult being thrown around, it's very easy for you to land on top of a child and cause severe injuries. So I would say, try and get yourself prepared before you think the seatbelt signs will be put on, because just prior to descent is the classic time for it happening, and usually if it's a good crew, they've already given you a preparatory announcement saying that this is a good time to visit the loos now if you need to, because the seatbelt signs will be going on shortly. So listen to them and keep yourself safe.
Now, to be fair to all those Boeing lovers out there, Nick, most modern Boeings and even antiquated
even 737s
versions of the DC-9, like what I was flying, many of those airplanes have the vacuum kind of flush systems that don't have the blue juice. Right. So maybe the olden days of the Boeings, that had the splashy blue fluid, but fewer and fewer of them.
Days.
A couple of chat room comments. Do we have to read Tim Van Ram's comment? Liz?
No.
Okay. Experiencing turbulence whilst in the loo.
That's turbulence.
Turbulence.
He's misspelled turbulence.
Turbulence. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's
sorry,
going for
folks.
a show title, I think.
Sorry.
Okay, and Tim also says, an easy way to know what blue juice tastes like. Yeah, well, I'll just have to assume it's not pleasant. All right, and shall we? Okay, let's do this one we've had in our news for a while. Yeah, again from Aviation Herald. It's a final report involving Pakistan International Airlines, a PIA, ATR 42-500. They were flying flight 605 from Islamabad to Gilgit, Pakistan, with 53 people on board, landed on Gilgit's runway 25, but overran the end of the runway, subsequently skidded sideways off the runway, coming to a stop past the end of the runway with the right main gear collapsed. There were no injuries. The aircraft sustained substantial damage to right main gear, right wing, and right engine. Of course, the airline put out a statement defending their crew. They reported that the crew skillfully regained control of the aircraft after the ATR skidded off the paved surface of the runway to some minor extent during
that. That is the best joke we've had all night.
Now, there is a video associated with this. We're not going to play it. We'll have it in the show notes for you if you want to look at it. But it does clearly show this thing swerving off at pretty high speed. I'm not sure I would agree with the skillfully regaining control and minor extent of swerving. But okay. Let's see. The Pakistan authorities reported the occurrence as a serious incident. An investigation was opened, etc. So, The primary cause is involuntary runway excursion due intentional high-speed approach and landing by the pilot flying. Huh? Wait a minute. So apparently the commander didn't adhere to the standard operating procedures. Lack of situational awareness and anticipation resulting in inadequate decision making. Ooh, that's your number one job as the commander there, is to make good decision making. Contributing factors: lack of assertiveness by the pilot monitoring. Well, whatever you say, Captain. That looks good to me. And inadequate application of crew resource management. Okay, so they were scheduled to fly from Islamabad to Gilgit, and the aircraft was loaded at 24.7% CG, which was within limits. Takeoff gross weight 18,600. Weather was reported to be fair at Gilgit, with no significant weather. Ground ops were uneventful. The captain was the pilot flying. After takeoff, autopilot was engaged at 260 feet radio altitude. Wow, that's pretty quick. Very low. Okay. But, I've seen people do that too, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Let's see. Upon crossing 1,900 feet radio altitude, vertical speed mode was engaged, contrary to the flight control operating manual procedures. Is that flight control? Is that what FC flight? I don't think that's right. Flight crew operations manual. VS target was initially plus 400 feet per minute, which was increased to 1,700 feet per minute, and then 2,000 feet per minute, causing the pitch attitude to increase to 15 degrees, speed to reduce all the way back to 130, as opposed to a standard climb speed of 160. Okay, so we kind of missed those parameters a little bit. The vertical speed mode remained engaged until the top of climb. Okay, so this captain's kind of doing things, kind of his own procedures.
Yeah, we don't like doing that normally.
Yeah.
Most aircraft don't have a speed protection when you're in vertical speed, which
Correct.
means that the speed can reduce all the way back to stalling speed if you're not lucky.
Yep, I've seen that come close to that happening in my career. It's not fun. Just to be, on the record, it wasn't me. Let's see, crossing 13,200 feet, vertical speed target was reduced to plus 700 feet per minute, then 600, and finally plus 500. However, this still resulted in a speed reduction to 178. The cruise was done at flight level 165. During cruise, let's get a little bit further into the flight. They're on approach now to Gilgit. Captain initiated descent with vertical speed target at minus 600 feet per minute. Captain elected to descend for the approach to the airport at higher than normal speeds, reaching up to approximately 245 knots calibrated airspeed, rather than maintaining the standard descent speed of 200. Okay, a little fast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The anomaly in descent...
Yep. Sorry, I thought that was when he was actually on the approach and trying to configure, but it just seems to be a
we'll get to that.
descent. Okay.
Yeah, you'll not be disappointed. Let's see. This anomaly in descent parameters was indicated to the captain by the FO. Okay, he spoke up.
Brave man.
Or he or she, whatever. However, the captain did not take any corrective action, and the FO did not make any further attempts after the captain basically gave him the side eye and said, "Don't ever
Ignored
dare
him completely.
tell me anything that I'm doing wrong." That's just not part of my personal operating procedures. The POP. At 10.1 nautical miles from the runway threshold, crossing 7,630 feet above mean sea level, the EGPWS, the EGPWS, triggered an alarm for 17 seconds, while the radio altitude height varied between 3,000 and 3,500 feet above ground level.
Sounds like it was a terrain alarm.
Must have been, yeah. It must have been high terrain around Gilgit. However, the captain did not take any corrective actions. Okay, so this thing's giving terrain warning, but for 17 seconds, and I don't hear it. I hear nothing. Okay, yeah, we see some mountains in the background, and this the aftermath of this incident.
Disaster.
Yeah. The aircraft leveled off at 2,000 feet. Throttles were retarded to flight level position. Is that
flight
right?
idle? I think that is
flight idle. Okay, thank you. Flight idle. Oh, where they remained until landing. Okay.
Didn't dare move them again.
Okay, yeah, that's not good. The speed reduced from 240 to 200. Descent was resumed after disengaging the autopilot. So this is all done so far on the autopilot. Crossing 700 feet radio altitude, throttles were set to climb override position to increase drag. Okay, this is a turboprop, so I don't quite understand that, honestly. At 513 feet radio altitude, the EGPWS alert was again triggered due to high rate of descent of 1,200 feet per minute.
Doing 1,200 feet a minute at 500 feet above the ground. Wow.
Yeah, that's not good. That's
not
advised.
good at all.
Yeah, during the base leg, the captain announced increase in tailwind. Surface. That looks like a heck of a tailwind. Okay. Surface wind at the time was reported to be calm, but gusts were present. The maximum tailwind at touchdown was 425 knots. Okay, so there really wasn't much of a tailwind. Not 425, but 4-5 knots. Due to higher altitude, the true airspeed of the aircraft was also quite high, and with no attempt to reduce speed, the calibrated airspeed would not reduce sufficiently for the aircraft to be brought to landing configuration, due which the aircraft flew base leg in clean configuration. Due to which the aircraft flew the base leg in a clean configuration, as opposed to the normal procedure of configuring the aircraft for landing prior to turning base leg. During the base leg, Captain asked the opinion of the first officer regarding a 360-degree turn in the valley to reduce speed for attaining the landing configuration. The FO was apprehensive of making a 360 turn because, in his opinion, the speed was too high for such a maneuver inside the valley that they were flying in. Moreover, he had no training or experience of such a maneuver in such a situation. Since the captain had not paid heed to the FO's observations previously, and also because of the experience, seniority, and instructor status of the captain, there you go, another instructor
another
pilot.
training captain. Marvelous.
Yes. The FO did not voice any opinion, but left the decision to the captain. The captain, not hearing any opinion from the FO, decided to continue with the approach. Oh, he must think this is good.
Yeah. He would definitely have not done it had the FO said so, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Exactly. At 488 feet RA and speed 184 knots, the too low gear warning sounded due to incorrect aircraft configuration. In other words, they didn't have the gear down yet.
Well, no wonder they're so damn fast if you didn't have the gear down.
Probably because he was so dang fast, he didn't want to overspeed
Couldn't get
the gear.
the gear.
Okay. I can see where all this is headed, right? You know, it's a
just
definitely unstabilized approach. And instead of saying, you know what, we should go around and try this again. Now, I've done this so many times like this, it's going to work out. That's not me speaking, but just, being hypothetical. The same warning was again repeated after 6 seconds at 500 feet. However, no action was taken by the captain. The captain initiated the base turn. It was not an academic pattern. I guess they mean like the kind of thing that you would learn in your manuals and training, how to fly a proper pattern. As the aircraft headed for the runway threshold at an angle of 10 to 15 degrees from runway heading instead of describing a circular arc. So it sounds like he cut off, kind of did a little shortcut angled.
Which would have added to his problems.
Yeah, really. He should have done the opposite,
Exactly.
Get a little bit more room to lose the altitude, speed. On initiation of the base turn, 15-degree flaps were selected at 175. The limiting speed is 180 at a height of 491 feet. I mean, this is all below 1,000 feet, which is crazy. Immediately after selecting the flaps, a landing gear leveler was selected to down and at 442 feet above ground at a speed of 174. 0.57 nautical miles from the runway, whereas the speed for lowering landing gear is 170. So a little bit too fast.
Quite a low gear speed. But,
yeah, it is.
And he put it. That's why he was having trouble getting it down. Obviously,
I guess. Yeah. Again, another warning from the EGPWS system without any reaction from the captain. Crossing 500 feet above the ground with the gear still not down and locked. Flaps came to 15 degrees at 257 feet. Okay, now we're getting really close, folks, to the runway and the ground. At a height of 230 feet, the aircraft was put in a bank to align with the runway for landing. Okay, so we're kind of jinking a little bit, really close to the ground, not advised. The gear attained down and lock position once the aircraft was rolling out in line with runway 25 at a height of approximately 50 feet and speed of 162 to 163. I have a feeling that was probably a little fast.
Now, that would have been fine for an Airbus A340.
Right, but not for a ATR 42, apparently.
No.
Just short of entering the runway threshold area, the EGPWS warning of too low terrain was triggered at 55 feet and a rate of descent at 800 feet per minute. Gosh, okay. That's just no. The aircraft was still in a bank once touching the runway. I guess he was still in a bank and straightened down a runway heading at I'm sorry. I don't understand what that means. Once entering R/W and straightened out on runway heading at approximately 30 feet AGL. So I guess he was still in the air when he was still banking at 30 feet. Okay. At no time during base turn or finals did captain attempt to go around. He was very highly skillfully banking the airplane. Full flaps could not be selected ever, as the speeds were too high once the aircraft entered runway at 160. Due to the high speed, the aircraft tendency was to float for longer distance. However, the captain made the aircraft touch down approximately 2,000 feet down at 150 knots calibrated airspeed.
Ground speed 170 knots.
Yep. Oh, there's that tailwind. With 3,400 feet of runway length remaining to stop the aircraft. Despite the higher landing speed, more than 115 knots ground speed, captain did not use thrust reverse and applied only brakes to stop the aircraft. The throttles were initially retarded to reverse, but then placed just below, what's the GI?
Ground idle.
Ground idle position.
As opposed to flight idle.
Okay. Due to higher aircraft momentum, as a result of the higher speed, the brake application was insufficient to stop the aircraft on the runway. To avoid going off the runway, this is a good one, the captain veered the aircraft to the right at 75 feet and then attempted to turn the... Huh? 75 knots. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. To avoid going off the runway, the captain veered the aircraft to the right at 75 knots and then attempted to turn the aircraft anti-clockwise, left, at 56 knots while advancing the right throttle.
That'll help.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's definitely going to help the situation. Now, there are times when you're taxiing an airplane on the ground that advancing the engine on the side that you want to help the turn kind of thing.
But
not when
exactly.
You're already going
at
way too
taxi
fast.
Speed.
You're
not when you're
helping yourself.
Desperately trying to get rid of the speed.
Yeah. Due to centrifugal forces at high speed, the aircraft could not be controlled and departed from the runway surface. Yeah, big surprise. The unpaved ground added further stress onto the main landing gear. As the captain was attempting to turn the aircraft anti-clockwise while it was being pulled radially outwards, the right main landing gear was already being stressed towards the outer side. Coupled with further stress from the unpaved ground, it ultimately collapsed. Due to the collapse of the right main landing gear. Yeah, the aircraft suffered major structural damage. We'll have pictures in the notes where you can look at the poor airplane after it finally came to a stop. At this time, the engines were also running, and the right engine suffered major damage once the propeller hit the ground. Post-accident investigation revealed that the captain was in the habit of making high-speed approaches and had done so on numerous occasions, but without any undesirable consequences. Don't worry, I've done this many, many times, and it always works out until it doesn't. The captain had never been cautioned or reprimanded for violation of the standard operating procedures prior to the accident. And you remember, this is an instructor pilot. Let's see. As a result of the damage sustained to the aircraft, the airline took the decision for permanent retirement and deregistration of the aircraft. Oh, I thought they were going to say permanent retirement of the captain.
I was going to say, what happened to the captain?
I don't know. It doesn't say here what happened to
Well,
the
he was
captain.
probably given a medal, going by
He may
what
have.
the airline reported. The crew skillfully retained
Oh,
control
yeah,
of the
you're right.
aircraft.
It wasn't his fault. Yeah, skillfully mismanaged the approach. Yeah, for sure. Yes,
Yeah.
it was a very skillful mismanagement. You're right. Peter says, "Is this an ATR or an F-18?" I'm not
Don't
even
think I'd
so
even
sure.
try one of those.
I don't think you'd do
Yeah,
that in an
F-18.
F-18 either, would you? I
No.
mean, it's not a very, rugged gear system on that.
Well, it
I
was
don't
fairly
know.
rugged for deck landings, but it didn't go
Yeah.
sideways very well.
Yeah. There are not too many airplanes that are designed to do that very well, honestly. Yeah. So this is just another one of those things where, you have somebody that, kind of pushes the limits to kind of a cowboy. Yeah, this guy should be an American U.S. pilot. And just kidding, all you U.S. pilots out there. I know you're all professional. You don't do anything like this. But I think another one of those. What's the disparity between, a captain who has a lot of, a lot of experience and a lot of clout with the company. I mean, after all, he's an
The
instructor,
authority
training
gradient,
pilot.
is that?
Yeah,
what
the
you're trying
authority
to-
gradient or whatever it was
Yeah.
a huge disparity there. And this co-pilot, I was surprised that he actually did utter something
Anything,
in
yeah.
the early phases of this whole thing, and then finally realized it's not going to do any good. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and watch this show.
Yes.
And yeah, yes, S for skill show. Oh, yeah. Wow. This is, I really love, I think my favorite part, Nick, is when, in to help, steer it back over to the left as it's veering off to the right, adding power to the outboard engine there, the right engine.
Yep, that would have helped enormously.
That was nice. Yeah. It was probably completely out of hand at that point anyway, so I'm not sure it really would have made a difference.
Well, he completely wrecked the airplane, didn't he?
Yep, they
What
did. Substantial damage.
I wonder if he's still flying.
I don't know. Probably. He's probably head of flight operations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Just in time for getting to know us. It's, sorry, hope you don't mind us adding you to. Or,
Well, that's fine. I was trying to just do it at the same time, but apparently I was not.
Oh,
as
okay.
fast on
I thought
button.
Liz and I we do that a lot. We kind of fight
Mhm.
each other on great minds think alike, right? Think alike, don't they, Liz? Yeah. Well, maybe not quite correct, but yeah,
And
you know what I mean.
just 2 cents from earlier conversation that you all were having
Yeah.
about hips and ankles.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say that I think the ankle, and I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but in my view, the ankle is fairly more complex than the hip.
Oh,
It has a lot more articulations, tendons, ligaments, that type of thing happening that could be problematic. A hip replacement's a fairly straightforward procedure. If
Really?
you have
Oh,
a
that's
sufficient enough
interesting.
hip fracture to necessitate one, you can also
Yeah.
nail some of those femoral fractures, high femoral fractures. So
Well, see, that's why I'm not a doctor, because I thought
But
it would be the opposite.
it depends. You could also have a really horrible hip fracture involving the pelvis that would be a nightmare as well. So I don't know, but just my 2 cents.
Okay. Okay, let me play the old bumper here for getting to know us. Yeah, it's that time of the show where we get caught up on what everybody has been up to between episodes. And I am trying to vamp here a little bit to re-engage my keynote, Liz, so stand by. I think I must have tried to do something earlier and I forgot to re-engage it. And I was skillfully managing my keynote instance. Yeah, all right. So there was something else. Oh, iHall Boxes says there's a Please read it, Captain Nick, because I have a window that's covering it. I can't move it. Sorry.
It says, there's the sort of accuracy we've come to expect from an APG show.
Thank you so much. I'll take that as a compliment.
You're very welcome. And I missed the beginning of that particular news item, so I know that was the near Charlotte incident. So I was looking back at it's in Georgia, but I was looking at that date because I threw my pictures to see. Man, there were bad storms around that time of year here, and they can pop up rather quickly. I've watched them go from nothing to severe thunderstorms in about 15 minutes at that time of year. So I don't disagree that they probably should have seen it before, like they were, unable to avoid it, but it can change rapidly.
All right.
I mean, I'm looking through my photos. I have all kinds of radar pictures from the week after that.
Folks, are
similar.
you going to get that on any other podcast? I say nay.
No.
No way.
No. I don't have anything from August 8th, but that was August 16th. And the 17th
well,
wasn't
that's pretty close. Close enough for government work. I do, Liz. Thank you very much. And, the other day I was sitting down thinking about something that happened about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago today, exactly. And in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's this? In today's episode, NASA is studying single pilot operations. We'll talk a little bit about the 727. There was an incident of a Delta 777 having to return for landing and dump fuel just a few days ago. More news, and of course, your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 152 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. As I said, I'm Captain Jeff, and I'm here today with a first officer, or co-pilot, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, co-pilot works, or first officer, whatever.
Okay. This is Stephanie
Oh my gosh,
Plummer,
I was so nervous.
And we call her Dr. Steph.
Like what?
She is
Yes.
a doctor of osteopathy?
Osteopathy.
Gosh darn
Very
it.
close.
I always mess that up.
It's the emphasis on the other syllable.
Yes. Well, I'm doing it the British pronunciation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Am
I think so.
Oh.
I'm not sure. We'll have to find
There's
out
so
if
much
anyone in Britain,
controversy here.
in Britain knows.
So I hope that you can hear Stephanie okay. She's using the microphone that I normally use, and I'm using a handheld microphone and kind of a little bit of a different setup here today. And that's why I'm overmodulating like crazy with my handheld microphone. Yeah.
And what was the location of that podcast where we recorded that again?
It was at the Charlotte airport. And it's funny, I listened to more of the show, Steph. Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, we were downtown and it was early morning. And apparently it was like late afternoon, early evening at the Charlotte airport when we were doing this. So I was like, my memory of the whole situation was completely wrong.
I was that memorable, but you did remember that this was
you were.
10
yeah,
years.
I remember all that, but I just don't remember the. Yeah,
That's
10
crazy.
years.
To the day.
Exactly.
Oh my
it was
gosh.
January 23rd. That was show number.
You look exactly like of your age as 16 at the time.
Thank you. Correct. Ding.
Yeah, you do look much younger there, but I think as you've matured, you're even more beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly. And
appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and that was, ladies and gentlemen, basically I was going to say the first time. That was not the first time that I've ever had anybody join me on a show. That would have been Tony, on episode 90. And in this particular situation, I don't think at this point I had thought to myself that this was going to be like a regular thing. It wasn't until I did the same thing with Miami Rick about 6 weeks later in Miami that I started to think, maybe doing a panel kind of show, having regular co-hosts would be kind of a different way to do this, a better way to do it perhaps. And so, as I've mentioned several times in the past, I kind of posed that question to both Dr. Steph and to Miami Rick, and I really didn't. No, I didn't get down on one knee, Liz, and I didn't pose that question. I posed a question if they were interested in doing this on a full-time basis, and honestly, I just thought they were both going to tell me, "Are you nuts? I mean, why would I commit myself to something crazy like that?" But they both said, "Yeah," and I went, "Really? Okay, cool." So that's when the whole show shifted from a solo show from 2009 to January of 2015 to a panel kind of a show, and so glad that I did. And wow, that was a lot of fun going back and listening to a little bit of that. And so, what do you think, Steph? Are you now looking back and regretting all this time
So
that you
much
spent?
no, absolutely not. This we've had this conversation, and I really appreciate your invitation that day to join you, and then to become a recurring part of all of this that you've put together. It's been amazing for me, just in terms of the connections and travel and the community. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that it worked out the way it did. That the emails that you were sending in, the feedback that you were sending in, and the fact that it just happened to work out, that you were able to join me to record the show in Charlotte. And yeah, it's just and people say, "How did you plan that?" And I go, "I didn't. I've never planned a thing on the evolution of this show." So yeah, I'm glad it worked out the way it did. So
Yes, likewise.
so happy anniversary.
Yay! Thank you.
Yay,
Do I
well
get a
done.
cake or something, or a no? Just flowers.
Wait a minute. I think I had a cake around here somewhere, but it's kind of I'm down here in Florida, and it's kind of quite a ways away from where you are.
It's all right.
in
We'll
North
we'll
Carolina.
postpone the in-person
Yeah, just
celebration.
keep that in mind. Next time I see you, I'll have to have a cake.
Or custard pie.
Or a custard pie.
I'm not
or
picky.
Maybe a case of beer or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably best choice.
Yeah, I'll continue on with my getting to know us part of the segment, or my part of the getting to know us segment. That would be the better way to say it. Let's see. If you'll throw up the thing from Stefan. Nope, not that. It should be in your keynote. Yeah, but that's mine that you're showing on the. There you go. There you go. Okay, that's what I was looking for. So, Stefan, a sometime co-host, guest host on the show. He's in Hamburg, Germany, and he has been out spreading the APG cheer throughout the world. And on his, I believe this was on X, he writes, "Hey, APG crew, spreading the word about your podcast again. Greetings from Mallorca, Spain, where the Festa Sant Antoni is being celebrated." Do I get a ding? Okay. All right. Let's thank you. And let's see. The whole village brings their animals to be blessed, but it also looks like they're just looking for an excuse to eat and drink. We all?
Yeah, that's just what I was
my
going to say,
gosh.
Liz. I hope they're not
Yeah,
eating
Liz.
the animals.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely keep that in the audio podcast. People will enjoy that one. Anyway, so it's one of those typical like 4-frame things, or a couple little short video clips of some. Is that a donkey or it looks like a donkey? Big ears on pulled. Well, what did you just call me? Thank you. Thanks for noticing. Anyway, so it looks like Stefan is having a great time in Mallorca, Spain. Yep, with his APG hat on, for sure. I know I mispronounced that. I did that on purpose. So thank you, Stefan, for spreading the word about APG all around the world. He's doing a better job of it than we are, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, what have I been up to? I am still in Florida, still keeping myself away from all the cold temperatures north of here. But I'm going to start heading back up north starting tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, before I check out of this campground, I'm going to winterize this thing again. I'm going to use the compressed air and blow out all the water. And I'm going to start heading up toward Atlanta. Probably going to stop halfway, like in Valdosta, Georgia, probably at a hotel. And then continue up to the Roswell, Alpharetta area for the near future. And I think it's just going to be a day or two of keeping the rig winterized before I can safely reintroduce the water and go back to a campground dwelling. After that, looks like from what I can tell in the forecast that I'm going to be okay for a little bit, at least. I'm not sure what February is going to bring as far as cold temps. I'm sure it'll get cold again, but that's part of the fun of doing this, the adventure of just playing this whole thing by ear and not really planning too much into the future. So that is my plan. So, and that's pretty much, I've been here in this, I think the last time we did the show, I was at a Harvest Host little farm. And then, that's right. I did do something. I ended up going to a Harvest Host in a small neighborhood right downtown Tampa for Saturday night. And there was a meetup of a couple of YouTube influencer couples. They have separate channels. Then they got together to host a meetup in Tampa, RVers, yep. And at a brewery, Berry House, Barriehaus brewery, and had some good beer there. But most importantly, I got to meet a bunch of people that were fans of these folks doing the meetups, just like an APG meetup. Just a lot of fun, drinking, eating, and having great conversation with people that share a common interest. And the next day, Sunday, I left and headed over to where I am now, which is Lakeland, kind of full circle, because this, you'll probably remember if you've been listening to the show for at least, 7, 8 months. Lakeland is where the dealership is located, where I ended up actually taking delivery of the Road Vessel Studio back on May 13th of 2024. So hasn't been quite a year yet. So I'm not far at all from where I ended up picking this thing up back in May. So been here since Sunday afternoon, and tomorrow, Friday, is when I'm going to check out and start heading back to my home base of the northern Atlanta area. So that's me. That's it. All right. Who wants to go next? Well, don't everybody just jump in there and,
That means you're next, Steph.
Sure.
All right, Steph.
Happy to. Let me get back to the rates. So let's see. Since last week, I think I mentioned I was heading to Chicago for the weekend. Last weekend, to participate in a Masters, United States Masters swim meet. So I provided a couple of photos of that. This is a good one. So I've been swimming for a very long time. I know we talk about athletic stuff on the show all the time, usually running stuff, but my background is really as a swimmer. So the picture on the left of the screen there, where we're all kids, it's my brother, two of my best friends, and myself. And then at this swim meet this past Saturday, it's the four of us from that original picture, plus our other younger brother who was not of swimming age yet in the previous photo. So we're all still friends. We all still get together, and some of us still go to swim meets together. So that was a lot of fun. None of us swam spectacularly well, but it was a lot of fun. I think I had a little bit video clip of
if you'll swap the keynote instance out, and then
and gosh, this is difficult for me to show because it's actually not great. But
oh wow, okay.
Oh, there we go. It's loud. Sorry.
Let me turn down the.
Oh, did I send you? Oh, I sent you the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Did you?
That's the incorrect. Yeah, sorry. You don't have to play that one. That's not the right one.
Okay, it's just somebody swimming in the background. I was trying to figure out who this was.
Some of it's my brother swimming. No, it should.
Okay.
It should have been the other one. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Anyway, it's okay. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes if you want to see me swimming a 50-yard backstroke event in the lane next. I'll be very easy to pick out, I think, but next to my brother. And he beat me by like 2.5 seconds, even though he doesn't train at all. But I'm going to blame it on my
How
recent
annoying.
knee rehab that's still going on. My start was abysmal because I couldn't, it's still a little strange bending it as much as I need to push off the wall correctly. So
Just
I have
hobbling around
I have
the pool.
excuses. I have a lot of excuses, but we're getting better. So yeah. I did. Liz is asking about our weather here. Jeff was mentioning the weather in Florida, where it's also not been very warm, I don't think. So this was, what day was this? Wednesday morning. So Tuesday night to Wednesday morning. First, the forecast was that we weren't going to get any sort of precipitation. There was a storm basically tracking along the Gulf Coast, so like Louisiana, parts of Florida, Georgia, and even up along the coast of South Carolina and the Outer Banks. But we were supposed to be too far to the north to get much of anything. And then they kind of revised that early in the day on Tuesday. So, well, yeah, window of some, light precipitation, flurries and whatnot. And this is how much it snowed. So it's like,
How many feet is that?
like
Wow.
0.0000. I mean, enough to kind of make it look pretty, but it was very cold, so it was very dry snow. So it wasn't that it was particularly icy or anything like that. But that was enough for schools to cancel the next day, and then for us to have a delayed start at work. So I
You
got
were
that.
able to get to the grocery store and buy some bread and milk.
I was out driving in it when it was coming down, and it was totally fine. So
I just always think it's funny that everybody goes to the store to buy
I'm like, are y'all making
milk and bread.
French toast
Yeah,
for the
I
storm?
guess
Like,
maybe
what-
do they
what is
they
that?
need to buy some eggs as well, I think.
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, we had a round two of measurable wintry precipitation. So we have broken our 1,000+ day long streak of no measurable snow or ice. Twice now this
There
year.
we go.
Yeah. It's still cold. I was supposed to go to Charleston this weekend for a 5K race, which I got an email about 2 hours ago saying that they've canceled due to ice still on the course. But it's supposed to be, like 50 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. I'm not sure if they understand that the snow and the ice will melt when it's above
What?
freezing.
How does that
Because the
work?
race is for Saturday morning. I don't
don't
think they
know.
got so much snow that it won't be like pretty clear. Anyway, so
They're still trying to understand the science there.
yeah. Maybe they'll
Behind
see
all
how
that.
it goes, and
Yeah.
but it got canceled, so not taking that trip anymore. So I'll just be around, not doing anything exciting this weekend.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry for being. Yeah, I'm glad I made it for my anniversary. Sorry for being tardy as always. It seems like work was.
Well, I mean, yeah, work was kind
There
of
were some crazy
unusual
things that
thing.
happened out of my control today, and nothing bad. Just made the day much longer than I expected.
Yeah. Well, we're always pleased whenever you can make it. All right. Captain Nick,
Yes, sir.
it's
What's
time for you
happening?
to tell us all about what you've been doing.
Well, not a lot, quite honestly. I'm still working on a couple of talks I'm giving next month, so getting those finished. Trouble is, it's my least favourite subject. I've covered all my aeroplanes now except the tornado, and as you probably remember, I'm
your
not
favourite
wasn't a great fan of the tornado. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to devise a talk that is fun and a little bit informative without slating the airplane too much, but it's going to be very hard. So that's coming up. We've got some weather hitting us. I don't think we can blame it on you guys too much. But it is, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you might be interested because we're going to be hit by Storm Eowyn, which is derived from J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy, where Eowyn is the name of a noblewoman from the kingdom of Rohan. She's one of the Rohan riders. So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, then you can go out and enjoy the fantastic weather that's going to hit us. All I will say is that tomorrow morning it's going to be gusting over 45 knots, and this is where I am, and I'm not in the worst spot. The worst spot is in the sort of middle of the country and Northern Ireland, where it's going to be, they've got a red zone up there. They're expecting quite a threat to life up there because of the wind speeds.
Was this another one of those storms that are sent from, that was sent from Canada?
It might be a Canadian one this time, except the Canadian ones are usually much nicer.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, we're going to wreak havoc and destruction upon you.
Yeah, exactly. So Friday's not good, and Sunday equally bad. Might even be a bit worse on Sunday evening, but once that's through, hopefully things will improve a little bit. Other than that, I've got little to add, except perhaps to cover last week's artwork, show art, and
okay.
I'm holding on as much as I can, Liz.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, there we go. We had some really good suggestions, but the one that intrigued me was we were talking about aircraft evacuations, and the aircraft have been de-iced and anti-iced, and the anti-ice is green, and it's called Type 4 for anti-icing, and it's a kind of gloopy gel that's sprayed onto the aircraft. And when they evacuated, I was just wondered how the passengers who were going over the wings were going to cope with the fact that it was covered in this this gel. So that was the theme of the artwork. So slip and slide Type 4 going
Okay, everybody,
green.
come outside. Everybody ready for a wild wet ride? Slip and slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our AI managed to produce a reasonable effort. It took me many goes to get that. They're somehow sliding uphill. I don't know quite how
I'm looking at this. So on the left side is the trailing edge, right?
No, I'm yeah.
It's an AI airplane wing. It's like how they do like hands and things and arms, where it's like
a
both ends.
winglet.
Yeah.
A Mooney winglet, I think, is what that
the
is.
flapping winglet. Yeah,
forward.
Good question. But there you go. And of course, it was actually snowy, and this looks like it's midsummer. So I don't know why you'd be putting anti-icing on in midsummer, but it actually managed to put some people on it. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, we did. We got. In fact, there was another one that was actually quite revealing, which was a bit odd for the AI because normally they bulk at things like that. Certainly, they normally bulk when I try and get things like because we've been talking about a 787 that dumped all its effluent out of the back of the airplane. Yeah, that would be impossible because as soon as you mention poo and things, it comes up with a warning and won't do anything.
Poo.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. I think that's probably the closest one to us.
Yeah, something like listen. When back in the day when we were lifeguards and had water slides, we would add some additional slipperiness to the water slides to make them more fun after hours. Usually baby oil. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. Okay.
And tequila to the water.
We were all, no one was of age, so that wouldn't go very
Has that ever stopped you? No.
So if we're looking for the logo, you can just see it emerging through the green gloop. Yeah, right next to Steph, and that's on the wing. And the show number. Yeah, was a bit.
I gave up. I couldn't find it.
647 down there on that cargo container that's down there just beside the wing.
Yeah.
Anyway, good luck if you manage to get those. Well done.
Yep, nice job.
I've got some ideas for this week, but we'll see what everyone else comes up with at the end. I don't think turbulence will feature. It might do. You know.
You won't be able to use AI to make the photo, unfortunately.
Well, yes, I'll have to figure something out. I found that calling it a gloopy, lumpy brown mud sometimes works.
That's clever.
Yeah, well.
That's what I always call it, too. All right. So it looks like it's now time for the coffee fun.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. The Coffee Fund. It's your way, dear listener, to support our show financially if you have the financial resources to do so. A couple different ways to do that. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method, and since the last episode, I don't think we had any new contributions there. However, the bulk of folks that support us through the Coffee Bar Club use Patreon. They become patrons of our show. And since... Oh, wait a minute. Nope, I'm wrong. We don't have any new patrons. I got it all backwards. We actually have 2 people that used the Coffee Fund Classic method, not the Patreon method. And they are Magnus Gladden from Sweden. We got to meet Magnus on our meetup at the what do they call it? The Royal Air Force Museum outside London, right? Oh, Captain Nick's not here to help me out. Anyway, thank you, Magnus, for giving us a very nice, generous contribution. He added a note to his contribution, and he said, let's see, Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks for making my weeks fun listening to you guys and girls. You're welcome, Magnus. We appreciate you as a listener and big part of our community, and also a supporter as well. And also we received a nice contribution from Helen Hibbins, and she said, appreciate your podcast, even though I know very little about aviation. Well, I'll tell you a secret. That's the same. We're in the same boat. We don't really know that much either.
Well, Captain Jeff is anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that boat. In my own mind, I certainly am. And anyway, so thank you very much, both of you, Magnus and Helen, for using the Coffee Fund Classic method. And as I was alluding to, quite incorrectly, Patreon is the other way of supporting the show financially. And you can learn all about both methods by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And as I like to say, you'll be glad you did. We will too. All right. That was so smooth. I think I did a very skillful job of doing the coffee fund there.
I thought
like
so
the guy
too,
that was
and
on
I was-
ATR 42.
Recycled a lot. I recycled some coffee while you were doing the coffee fund, so I missed whatever.
Oh no, it was
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
I
you
believe
missed
it. I know it. It is every time.
It was quite
I drank
something.
a lot of. I drank a lot of coffee today. That's the only way I made it through this day. Like a lot. Like I might not sleep tonight.
I did some skillful swerving
okay.
for sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
swerving all over the place.
Took notes on that.
And I would like to report that my prostate is in very good health because I managed to complete everything and get back in time.
Woo! Yay!
I'm sure that's
Yeah,
the
that
official
deserves
prostate
a-
check. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, that wasn't what. That
Much
was what
better than a PSA test.
Yeah, you need the Delta P.
Yeah, the Delta P. Here we go. All right.
Hey.
Very good. Very good. All right. Really? Okay. Well, let's keep on going then. Let's do some.
Yes, and
feedback.
I'm unfortunately I have to go too. Oh, sorry.
You have to go?
No. At that like 20-minute mark.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
good. Then everybody hush up and let's do this.
Captain, incoming message.
Alrighty, let's start off with this one from Tom T. Things you say, he says. In episode 639, you were saying that you were parked at Lookout Mountain, and my silly brain thinks, Lookout Mountain, ain't that what a scud running FO says in Panic? Like, instead of Lookout Mountain, Lookout Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah,
just like
that's as he waves and goes, "Hi, Jack."
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I should have been ready. Here we go.
Not worth it.
You're right. Okay. We received this funny from Chet. Let's see. And it is a video, but it has some audio with it. Hopefully you can kind of follow along by listening to the audio. And it might be kind of hard to understand, but we'll kind of work it out after we play this thing. So here we go.
We should break up.
Why?
Because I've been seeing Stacy, okay?
Are you kidding me?
No, I've been seeing Stacy and I want to explore stuff with her and I don't want to see you anymore.
Is your boyfriend causing you a lot of emotional distress that you don't know how to deal with? Well, do I have the nifty little trick for you? Expose him for being a Boeing whistleblower.
Well, at least I'm not a Boeing whistleblower.
What does that mean? What is that? Oh, hey, no, whoa, what is this? No, come on, what is
If
this?
someone has wronged you, exposing them as a Boeing whistleblower has a 100% success rate.
Darn it, my boss is disrespecting me at work and he wants to cut my pay.
Sounds like he knows some top secret information about the Boeing 737, and you should probably tweet about it.
Yeah.
Exposing the scum who slighted you will have them eliminated before you can say, what missing safety devices on hardware? This whistle isn't gonna blow itself. Expose someone as a Boeing whistleblower today.
Okay, very cute.
Wow.
Now, we're not
that's a bit
saying
Harsh.
that there's any funny business going on with the whistleblowers there at Boeing. Just social media. No, we're not.
No, all the funny business is on this show.
That's right.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, Chet, for... he said, just making sure you've seen this, and I hadn't. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Continuing on with Triple H, and he says bad piloting and bad ATC at Teterboro. And that was actually the title of a video that he sent a link to. Actually, he sent a link to an article referencing this video entitled Bad Piloting and Bad ATC at Teterboro. And the writer of the article kind of tries to explain it and put some of the narrative on this blog post. And I have to say, I don't really think he got it completely right as far as his discussion of this. But yeah, it was worth, talking about, I think. And I did take the audio from the video so we can all hear that. And we're going to take a listen now and see what we think about this. So this is Teterboro, New Jersey, just north of Newark, New Jersey. And Teterboro is a very busy executive jet airport. What would you call it? BizJet, the CEOs of big, like a, what now? Big hub, you said? Yeah. And anyway, a lot of traffic going in and out. And as I said, not very far to the north of Newark, which is also a very busy.
Oh, we used to go smack over the top of it on 10-mile finals, as I recall.
Yep, you're right. That's exactly where it is. All right, so let's take a listen to this aircraft that is checking in. He's getting sequenced for the arrival, going for the RNAV runway 24 approach at Teterboro.
Victor 636, you're 8 miles from Strad at 3000, clear RNAV 24.
Sounds good, RNAV 24, Victor 636.
Newark FlexJet 566, 4000, 040 on the heading.
Jet 562, altimeter 2975, good morning.
Good evening, FlexJet 562, 4000, 040 on the heading.
FlexJet 562, New York approach, good morning, hello. Jet 636, is everything okay?
Sure.
Okay, because I gave you Strad at 3000. Strad is 5 miles behind you and you're still at 4000.
Uh-oh.
Victor 636, we're going to 3000 now. So we had at or about 3000 at Strad towards the approach.
Okay, I'm pausing. So, what is he right about that? He said we heard at or above 3000 at Strad. Let's hear again what the controller said.
Victor 636, you're 8 miles from Strad at 3000, clear RNAV 24.
Yeah, he clearly said.
At 3000.
Yeah, he didn't. The readback didn't include the altitude restriction 3000 at Strad. But the controller indeed told him cross strat at 3,000. Okay, continuing.
Say again? So 636, we heard at or above 3,000, clear for the approach to the strat. Okay, just at least when you get to Wheezy, make sure you're at 2 there, all right? We'll get to Wheezy 2, that's just 636. Thanks. M10.
Okay, so that's another fix further down the approach. Wheezy, he said, well, at least, okay, that's all right. Just cross Wheezy at 2 for me, okay?
02, turn right, heading 080. 080, I got it. New York approach, expect at 633, 4,000, Lima. New York approach, expect at 633, 4,000, Lima. 633, good morning, altimeter 2975. Step 562, descend to maintain 3,000. 3,000, flex jet 562. Sam 102, direct to Wheezy, speed 170. Just 636. Sir? Well, I thought we agreed that you were going to cross Wheezy at 2, so this is the second clearance that you're not abiding. This is 636, Roger. No, the Roger isn't the answer. I want to know why you're not complying with the clearances that I'm giving you. That's the block. Want to know the reason why you're not complying with the clearances that I give you? Are you separating yourself from other IFR traffic? Would you like to continue VFR, or, I mean, I'm just confused why I keep asking you to do something you're not doing what I'm telling you. Sir, we're sending to 2,000 at Wheezy, and we dismissed it, sorry. Write it back.
Okay. He says he gave him 2, and he actually read it back. Let's see. Let's confirm that.
When you get to Wheezy, make sure you're at 2 there, all right? We'll get to Wheezy at 2, that's just 636. Thanks.
Yep, he read it back. Said he would cross Wheezy at 2.
Sure. At 562, turn right, heading 080. 080, flex jet 562.
That's for FlexJet. FlexJet.
For one aircraft. M102, you're 5 from Wheezy. Wheezy at 2,000, you cleared the RNF 24.
Not exact jet.
2,000 cleared for the RNF 24, Iconic 102.
Another airplane.
Heading again for digit 680, 636. Good. 633, just here, current heading, maintain 3,000. 636, we're going left turn to 080, correct?
No.
Oh, no, you're on the approach. 636, you're supposed to be at 2,000, you're cleared the approach, you're already not doing anything that I told you to do, and you're not descending. Like, I'm just confused. Do you want to continue going to Teterboro? What would you like to do? Descending now for Teterboro, digit 636, sorry. 636, let me know when you're ready to copy a phone number.
Uh-oh.
636, definite pilot deviation.
Definite pilot
Contact
deviation.
Philadelphia approach on 215-492. Thanks. See you back. 215-492. 633, just try to maintain 3,000. 3,000, exact, 633. 562, direct to Wheezy, speed 180 or greater. Wheezy, 180 or greater, flex jet 562.
Okay.
636, call Peterborough Tower, 109.5.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, very busy, and that's typical
Very
for
busy.
flying into these places. Two exec jets with similar sounding numbers, flight numbers after the exec jet, so potential for confusion. There was a flex jet, and there's a lot of blank jets flying around, little business jets flying around. iHaul boxes in our live audience said this guy reading back the phone number means nothing. That's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't. He didn't take down that phone number. He read it back.
That's
It's like,
a good one. It's like everything they was supposed, come on, I don't know what was going on in that cockpit, but it must have been
I
very
feel like there was a
distracting.
lot of confusion just in general in that cockpit. Like,
Yeah.
They sounded lost all around.
No, I've never heard anybody say definite pilot deviation. They've always said possible pilot deviation. But in this case, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
for
not
sure.
missing.
You're going to be violated. Oh, wow. Yeah. So the guy that wrote this article that was pointed to from Triple H basically said, he was cleared to descend via the arrival. Well, no, this is not an arrival. This is actually an RNAV approach. And if you look at it again, There is on this here. There are no like crossing restrictions or anything on that segment of the initial approach fix strad. Not until you get toward the final portion of the RNAV approach, and then we have some in the profile view. We have some altitude things like at or above 2,000 at Shrew and at or above 1,700 at Angle or Angie, whatever. I can't read it. Too small. But the initial portion here, when the controller gives you a point and an altitude to cross it, then you're supposed, even, whether you read back correctly or not, you're required to do that. And apparently it seems like they were just letting their jets vertical management profile of a VNAV system just kind of do whatever it thought was necessary to kind of put the airplane where it should be for that final approach segment, and just completely disregarding all the things that air traffic control told him to do. And that's when I think he finally got a little frustrated and kind of got a little snarky and said, "Are you separating yourself from other traffic? I mean, in other words, that's what I'm here to do. And that's why I'm giving you altitudes to fly, and I'm separating you from it. Is it, do you want to go VFR? Like, and just do everything on your own?
It might have been better if they just said yes at that point.
Yeah, I know. Right. That's what they should have done. And then, of course, they took that heading for some other, it wasn't even the other exec jet. It was for the flex jet flight that was given the 080 heading. And I go, no, you're on the approach. I cleared you to, it's like, he finally just came to his wit's end there, I think.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I think that was a bad title of this video, because I don't think there was anything bad ATC, unless you consider his snarkiness bad. But the piloting part, the navigating, maybe not the piloting, but the navigating part of the piloting was what was a little bit, well, actually not the navigating, the actual vertical profile management, I guess you could say, was not very good. So, yeah. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting one. Okay. What do you think? Should we go with this one from Roberta? Okay. We'll go with our BC Canadian, Roberta, and her feedback is entitled Coincidences. Recently, I've been having great fun figuring out how airport runways are numbered and used. When you talk about a runway on the show, I study the runway map while I listen. Oh, very good. My most recent thrill came from observing a Mayday flight on Flight Radar 24 as it was coming into Tokyo Narita NRT. At that time, they were using 3-4 right to land and 3-4 left to take off. I was able to predict that they would use 3-4 left for the Mayday flight. And I was right. They halted the departures on 3-4 left, and the Mayday landed there. And other flights kept landing on 3-4 right. I confess, I'm rather proud of myself. Well, that's because of you listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show. You've absorbed all this. All this.
You know more than
knowledge.
we do now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I told her that. Okay, so I have a story and a question for the crew. I love a coincidence, and I experienced an APG-related one the other day. On Monday, December 30th, I was listening to episode 484, August 21st, 2021, wow, while listening to a story that involved Redding Airport, RDD, in California, which I've never heard of. And then I got an emergency alert from Flight Radar 24 about a flight from, wait for it, Redding. What are the chances of that? Full details of the flight are attached. It appeared to land safely. So this brings me to my question. What interesting coincidences have you experienced as a pilot? I'm sure the crew must have a few good stories. Yeah, I don't know. Coincidences. Yeah, that was
That's
a coincidence.
Good coincidence. Yeah.
We were co-incident.
Yes. I would say maybe the coincidence was that Jeff had a layover here and it worked out with my schedule. And
that's a miracle.
We were both eager to enjoy a local IPA.
Yes. Yes, we were. And we had done so a few times before that on layover. I remember Steph coming by in one of her older Jeeps at the time. How many Jeeps have you had?
5.
Wow. Okay. And so that was
I mean,
not
but that's
your first
since
one, then.
1999.
Ah, okay. And remember her pulling up. I always forget your dog's name. That big giant dog.
Oh, that
of
was
yours.
Hooch.
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 Hooch was in the back of the Jeep, and all the doors were off and the top was off. She goes, "Let's go. Let's drink some good North Carolina." But am I getting that right?
I don't think the dog was in the car because I wouldn't have, unless we could sit outside. Were we sitting outside somewhere?
Yeah, we were sitting outside.
Oh,
Well, I definitely remember the dog,
yeah. No, I know.
unless I was seeing things.
I think I was thinking about a different coincidental
Okay.
meeting.
Well, at that point I had nothing to drink, but I did have a few when we were visiting the various breweries. Isle of Boxes says, it was a coincidence landing on my first attempt. Wow, that's good.
It's a good coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a,
Yeah.
It was a coincidence that you touched down and the runway was right below the landing gear when it touched down. So,
Indeed.
what a coincidence. That's a good coincidence. Any coincidences, Captain Nick?
Well, I guess so. I remember when I was back in the Air Force, I was teaching a young pilot, recently arrived on the squadron. We were doing air combat, and it was 2v1, so we were the 2 aircraft, and the 1 aircraft was the target. So there's a bit of a canned exercise, but the idea was we passed this other aircraft, and then we started maneuvering, he started maneuvering, and the idea was to coordinate between us two to get one of us into a position to kill him. So, hello.
I think
My
your camera
camera
is
is
getting quite bored with your story.
Yeah, it's. I've heard that one before. It said.
I'm just going to turn around and look out the window.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Squirrel? Was there a
Almost.
squirrel in your yard?
tracking someone else in the backyard. Yeah.
So we passed this guy, and I said to him, "You engage. I'm going off high," and I hoofed up in the vertical and got over the top of the fight so I could come on down and shoot him as this guy got him into a predictable flight path, and he started turning with him, and then all of a sudden he pulled up and pointed his airplane at me several thousand feet above him. Don't forget, this is my wingman. And he said, "Fox 2, kill," on the tornado at 10,000 feet heading west. So I said, "That's a coincidence. That's exactly where I am." Yeah, he didn't live that down.
What happened to the real target? What happened to them? They were just watching the whole thing?
He scooted off and exited stage left, of course, while we had a little bun fight of our own. Interesting.
That's funny.
That's what learning is all about, though.
Yeah, I guess he was quite embarrassed by that.
Just a wee bit.
I'm sure you didn't rub that in at all. And
No, I didn't remind him for the next 3 years.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, what a coincidence. Time for the end of the show. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We do have a couple of feedback. By the way, if you're out there and you have a question that you would like for the crew to answer, or something that you want us to give our opinion about, or advice even, if you dare, we're open for business at feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. So please feel free to do that. In the meantime, we have a few pieces of feedback that are still left in the feedback, the mailbag, from Shane and Sam and let's see, Mike Smith. And I don't have it expanded enough to see some of these names. Okay, Peter Tarantelli, Sean McHale, and another one from Roberta. So we're going to transfer those over to our next show folder. And so if you out there want to send us some feedback, please feel free. And now we're going to wrap it up by pointing you to our website, airlinepilotguy.com, as we always do. And there's lots of good stuff over there. Just check it out. And we also are on social media, or what I like to call the social meds.
If you are a fan of the social media, you can find us several places. That would be facebook.com/airlinepilotguy, also on X at APG Crew, and find our individual handles pinned to the top of that page. If you're searching like the rest of us for the numbers in Captain Nick's show artwork, that can be found on Instagram, instagram.com/APG Crew. And to watch these video recordings of the live shows, youtube.com/@airlinepilotguy/streams.
By the way,
And, yes.
Before you do that, I on that last one, YouTube, I tried to reorder the thing. So if you just go to youtube.com/airlinepilotguy, I think that it will kind of show you a list of our last few episodes in video format. We don't necessarily have to go to streams now,
Okay.
I believe, if I've done that right. So I just haven't changed
We'll have to verify and then...
the slide. Yeah, just anyway,
Okay.
because that's what you're probably there for, right? To kind of check out what we're doing behind the scenes on video and how we're making the sausage, which is quite messy.
Mhm.
Anyway, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, that wraps up the social medias with the exception of Slack. So I'm hoping Hillel is
Slack.
around.
I think he is. I hear the water again. Or maybe there's a leak in this thing. Hey, hello. Did you tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
I know it's raining outside too. Well, it was earlier. I'm not sure if it is now. Anyway, come on over here. I'm going to give you the microphone and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
All right. Thanks a lot, Hillel.
Fire in the hole!
Too much information. What did the kids say? TMI?
TMI.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Seriously, thank you, Hillel, for managing that for us. And we'd also like to say a big thank you to Liz, our producer, all the work that she
Yay,
does
well done,
behind the
Liz.
scenes during the show and after. So we love you, and we
Thank you,
appreciate
Liz.
everything you do for us. And great to see the both of yous next to me over here.
Both of
Steph
yous.
and
Yous guys.
Captain
Yous
Nick.
guys.
You guys.
Yins. Yins.
And
Yins, I think.
well, we were hoping
Yins,
that Camacho would maybe join us for a short little bit, but he's awfully busy still with his job. But maybe we'll have him on next week. Who knows? But,
Fingers crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much to our live audience. They always provide a lot of entertainment and very little information. So we do appreciate that.
Just like us.
Yeah, just like good point.
Sorry.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and say, wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, talons, Douglas.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time, and happy anniversary, Steph.
Thank you. 10 years.
Wow. You must be crazy.
Surely.
I don't know if Larry's still there, but
Haven't seen him lately.
Larry, I'm glad to see you in our live audience, at least earlier today, and I'm glad that
Better
you're...
than being in the dead audience.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, we started off earlier on the show, I think before we started recording, by playing this wonderful sound effect that we just love, and we know that Larry would definitely appreciate it.
I'm not dead! Yeah. He said he's not dead. Yes, he is. I'm not. He isn't? Well, he will be soon. He's very ill. I'm getting better. No, you're not. You'll be so dead in a moment.
Or maybe he got so upset with that me playing that sound clip, he just decided to leave, and he'll never talk to us again. I don't know.
Never Never interact with sea.
Yeah. Tim Van Ram, APG coming to Blue Sky? Nope.
Nope.
I
No
don't want to do
plans.
any more. Don't want to do any more social medias. I've had my fill.
Struggling already. Any shows
I've got a
suggestions?
few here, Nick. And
I have none, but I hate to be the one that shows up late and leaves early. But I actually have more work stuff to wrap up before it gets too late. So glad I can see you all. Thank you for the anniversary wishes. I will see you all next week. Fingers crossed.
Bye.
Absolutely.
All right.
Cheers.
Good night. See ya.
Okay, so the ones I have, Nick, are Fly the Darn Airplane. I have Caution.
What was that one?
Well, there were so many.
The crew that was blindly following the
zero.
Flight
Flight
directors.
Yes.
Instead of looking at the flight director.
Caution Space Debris. We have Skillful Swerving by the PIA pilot. He did some skillful swerving. And thanks to Tim Van Ram, we have Blue Bowl Splatter in the lab.
Okay.
Oh, that toilet bowl splatter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one I have is Danger, Excessive Stiffness. And you can do with that what you want.
I know what that one was all about.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That'll do fine. That's enough.
Okay.
Because I've got drinking blue juice.
Yeah.
Tim says he's very proud.
Well, he's very proud of his turbulence. Did you just go to the bathroom there, Tim? I don't know.
Yeah, he's very proud.
What's the other one about freckles he came up with?
Something about
throwing stones in the toilet or something.
Gives you, but I don't understand
freckles.
That. I hate to.
Well, I think there was like some brown splashback on your.
Oh, now I get it. Thank you for clarifying.
So to skipping stones in your turlet there.
Gotcha.
And we could always just have like happy 10th anniversary stuff. You know, we could just go with a nice one. Then it would just be you and a nice picture of Steph. No. Okay.
Is that
just
too
a
easy for you?
suggestion.
Yeah, way too easy.
Okay.
Metro Doc likes turbulence too. Actually, he's happy with that one too.
10th anniversary.
Are you guys getting any percentages on your recording uploads? Mine just says uploading. It doesn't say how much.
Yeah, everything says uploading. Yeah.
Except for Dr. Staff. She's complete.
Yes, likewise.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Of course, she was here a very short time, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah.
But usually the rest of us are pretty far
along. It usually
along.
displays a certain percentage.
Yeah.
It does.
How far it's gone.
We won't. Don't worry.
Please
we
ask
won't.
all guests to stay.
You know what? Honestly, I don't think we're going to need it. I think. How was the connection for me?
Excellent. Very good.
Yep.
Excellent. I'm using
one terribly short minor dropout, but that was fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using the Starlink dish that's going into the Peplink router along with some cellular as well, bonded. So,
pretty solid, I would say. Speaking of turbulence.
Is turbulence with an E or an A? Turbulence or turbulence?
Turbulence. T-U.
What's turbulence? What's turbulence? It's the same as turbulence, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Turdulence, I think. Wouldn't it be?
No. He's talking about the last part of the word.
Is it L-A or L-E-N-C?
It's the same as turbulence, isn't it? So whatever.
I think so. So, and that is A-N-C-E, right? Or not?
That's the way I've written it.
Yeah, I would say it's A-N-C-E. Turbulence. Yeah.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody in the chat room. Always great to have you guys and gals on board.
Well,
actually, it's correctly spelled E-N-C-E.
Oh, it is E-N-C-E?
So
all
I was
right,
wrong.
there we go.
Okay.
There's another late entry here from Metro Doc is the Airbus-Boeing merger, where we almost had the Airbus-Boeing merger there in Costa Rica.
Oh, yes.
Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you're right, it is E-N-C-E.
Yeah, just shows how... look at that AJ slipping in just before we go off the air to say hi.
Oh. How was your flight on the 350? Of course, we're going to have to wait.
We have a little latency here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, can you take a copy, please, of Keynote? While we're
A coffee?
waiting?
Nah, it's a little late for coffee.
A little coffee. A little coffee. Oh, there's Zeta.
Pretty smooth.
Pretty smooth.
She's bored now.
Hey, Zeta.
She wants
Okay,
to say
I will
something?
definitely think about doing that, Liz. Wait, hang on. Escape.
You can't.
So you want me to keep my StreamYard open, yeah?
I don't care. You can leave because I think everything that I think everything's good. What I recorded over here on this
All
end, I
right.
don't need to use those files. Let me see. Open recent, and that's Keynote, and I'm doing that right now. So you don't have to stay, Liz, if you want to go.
Thanks, you guys. Great show.
Cheers, Liz.
Let's end the
See you
stream
next
here.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.